Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Gilded and G+, so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, Ken.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, you see Randy? See Randy's
Huh?
Did you see that thing Flatsoid posted about Randy disguising himself as a homeless guy for a week?
What was he doing that for?
Oh, he wants to help a homeless guy. He wants to help him get out of it. So he's going to become one of them, undercover, and he's asking for, donations to help.
Oh, so the ploy for the drone that he doesn't have anymore doesn't work, so he's got to go the homeless route?
He's a shiesty dude. I do not trust him.
Oh, that's obvious. Never saw one thing from the drone that everybody helped get him get. And now he can't ask for another one, so now he's going to go the homeless route.
Yeah, that whole thing with Roxanne too. I remember I was listening to that show live when he said all the donations and super chats were going to go to Roxanne, and he didn't do that. So right there, goodbye.
So we got three things then. We got the drone, we got raising money for another channel, and now homeless. So what's left?
And don't forget the main one. You're a flat earther and you're a ball earther. Come on. What's going on here?
Well, obviously, Ball Earth doesn't pay enough, so he's got to go back to his roots.
Yo, this thing has got me so freaking frustrated, man. Everything checked out for this place except my credit from like 9/11 when all of that happened and I lost my work and everything. But those banks got bailed out for all of that.
Oh, for sure.
Still came after me for the money, and I was paying them too. They were taking money out of my pay. And then a lawyer got in touch with me and said, do not pay them anymore because we have a case against them because they got bailed out and they still collected the money.
That's right.
But it's still on my freaking record. So
And
I guess,
and they got bailed out by us through tax dollars. Then they want money from us after they got money from us. They're just greedy.
Right. So the thing is now, but that's sticking on my freaking record and that's stopping me from because they do like they just follow whatever the algorithm says. They don't even look into what it is.
Just change your last name to something Latin and you'll get everything for free.
Yeah, I know. I'll get everything for free.
Everything.
And my brother co-signed. So she said, do you have a co-signer? So my brother just bought a house there, has a successful HVAC business. He said, look, I'll do it. I got a break getting this. I'm going to give you your break. And they still refuse him. So it's like, what the heck, man? Anyway, trusting in God.
Yeah, keep at it. There's a lot of people in that position, but they eventually find a source.
So what if we...
Hang on. Nathan, you there or are you drinking coffee?
No, I'm here.
All right.
I just heard him beating up the counter.
So everything cool with the computer? I missed the fix.
It was yesterday.
I know.
Every day's brand new with this new computer. We will see.
Boo boo. Sound like Yogi.
Hello, Boo Bear.
Yeah, it's at a point where I'll just modify the computer if it doesn't function like it's set up now. I remember telling you a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, it's at the break point now where the performance is okay. Well, it's below that now, and it's like, well, I don't want a new computer that's substandard in terms of performance, but I can rectify that by pulling out 2 sticks of RAM. So that's my next step if I can't get it stable at what it's set to now. But I don't want the performance to drop when I start streaming. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want it to function the same no matter what I'm doing. In other words, if you start some particular type of program, I don't want suddenly the performance of the computer to start lagging and being crap. You don't want that. You just want it to function the same no matter what you're doing. And it can. There's no two ways about it. It can do it, just not in the configuration that it's in. However, I've battled for 2 months to get this configuration to work. And like I say, this is its last chance to work. Then it's take it down to the computer guy, because it's not a one-man job to take the motherboard out. And it's backwards. You can't see the RAM stick to just take them out. So I'll have to get help to do that. And while I'm at it, I'll put some quieter fans in it if I can't get it stable. In other words, if I have one more issue, I'll change the configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to put fans in where you didn't want no fans. Great.
It already has fans where I didn't want fans, but they're cheap fans. They're cheap, expensive fans. It's like buying the bottom of the range Lamborghini. Yeah? Does that mean it's better than a Beamer? Probably not. But that's what they put in. They put in
Wait,
cheap.
you just said they're cheap, expensive fans?
Yeah, cheap Noctua. Noctua's an expensive brand. This is their cheap from 10, 15 years ago designs, which are, by comparison to almost every other fan, noisy. So, yeah, they've got the brand name, like I give a crap, but they're noisy. Well, that's annoying.
So they're good by name only.
Yeah, people wanted cheap Noctua fans. Noctua have got a reputation for being exceptionally good. The fans in my last PC were Noctua, ugly brown, ugly fans, but they were very quiet, and I was very happy with that. One of them, the big one, was silent. I got it tuned so you could never hear it, ever. That's perfect. These, they only have to run at 300 RPM and I can hear them. That's annoying, because at that level, when you can hear them, I don't want to, so I won't run them any faster. So I can't get any cooling performance out of the fans that are in this PC. It's pointless. I might as well put different fans in that can run at 800 RPM without being heard. And then they will cool the PC without being heard, rather than just not being heard and not doing anything except spinning. It's just pointless them even being in there. It's like, oh yeah, but they work really great at 80%. It's like, what, when they sound like they're about to take off in this silent PC? Yeah, I'm sure they do.
I gotta admit, that's gotta be the most annoying thing, them fans, because when I go in my son's room, just his gaming system sounds like a plane is getting ready to take off. It's terrible.
Right, he hasn't got a powered condenser mic 18 inches from it. I have. So, you know, if my ear can hear it and the mic is the exact same distance as my ear, the mic can and does hear it. So if the fans spin, you can hear it. That annoys me when I hear it on the recordings. I don't ever want to hear fans on the recording. It annoys me when I hear it on Flatzoids. That's the life of having a cheaper PC. You've got to keep it cool. When it costs $4,000 and is designed to be passive, it's just like, this is an outrage. Why would I want to sit here listening to fans in my recording? It's just that's not acceptable. Anyway.
Hey, listen, hold on. I had the best idea yesterday. Just do everything from a freezer. You know, one of them big walk-in ice box that they have in the restaurants? It'll stay nice and cool.
I'm sure. Anyway, I'll change the configuration if it has one more issue, because I'm not prepared to turn it down anymore. You know, no, why would I? It's already slower than it should be. Yeah,
I don't think, Nathan,
Go on.
I don't think Nathan.
I got an image in my head. Hold on, of Nathan all bundled up, freezing, doing a show from an icebox.
No, I was going to say, I don't think Nathan's a big fan of Coldplay.
Anyway, enough talk about the computer.
Bada bing, bada boom. Come on, give it up.
That was funny. I'm laughing.
I know he wasn't. He always tries to knock down my puns, and then he starts doing it.
He gets he throws them
Just jealousy.
sophisticated ones.
That's all it is.
Well,
Yeah,
the globe is dead. It's been dead for a while. There's all kinds of things happening. Soon it will be mainstream, Nathan. You have no worries about your show.
Oh no! At the football game last night, right before the game, how they talked to other players, there was a guy autographing the space shuttle and communicating. Marshawn Lynch communicating with the guys on the ISS.
Oh, really? Well, these are things I like to see because they're in fear mode. So they put up more of these fictitious situations. And so the more they do, the better for us because space is fake.
And then when they talk, then you know they go all back to the announcers, you know, the people pre-broadcasting the game. They go, "You want to go to the moon? Would you like to go to the moon?" The one lady was like, "No, I'm not going to the moon. I like my feet right where they are on the ground." But they the place that they could travel to.
No, that's the whole thing. That's the lie that's being broken down. So they have to reify it some more with Marshawn Lynch and all these other people. Let them do it. I like it. I like it when they say these stupid things. And then we take all the nice housekeeping questions and say, well, if that's the case, then what about reality? You want reality or do you want this Narnia world that they give you?
I mean, they had a shot of the moon too, close. I mean, it does look like it's like the ball up there, you know.
Whether it's a circle or a ball, it doesn't matter. The angle measurements tell you you don't live on a sphere with a curved surface.
That's correct.
So it's over. It's over right there. So who cares what the moon is?
You see the new commercial now? Now they got right after that there was a commercial with some sort of perfume where they're dancing on the moon. The man and the lady dancing on the moon.
Well, there's the song "Dancing in the Moonlight." It's a good song. Look, the lie's being uncovered. They're very scared right now.
My question is, are they doing it more, or does it seem like they're reifying it more just because we're aware, so we're noticing it more? Or are they really pushing more stuff about it on the news and on TV and everywhere else, billboards and stuff like that? Or are we just in tune to it?
Because we're in tune to it, they're lying more often. And so they have to keep the lie going. Then they have to say we're archaic. And then they have to put barriers to channels who say certain things. And then you get a consensus science going rather than real science. It makes for a great opportunity to show all of these anomalies happening that shouldn't be happening if you had a real conversation with people. So I like to keep it real, but I like to use all of these things that they do as proof as to why they're doing it, because they're being outed.
Happy anniversary to me. 22 years today. Amazing.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Well, thank you.
What are you doing here then?
What do you mean? It's 9 o'clock in the morning in the States.
It takes a while to get to the moon and dance, Nathan.
Doesn't matter
Give
what
him a few
time it is.
minutes.
I got reservations for a restaurant tonight. I'm going to do the right thing.
Okay, fair enough.
But I should run and get a card. My first anniversary, that was my mistake. I figured because it landed on a Sunday, and I figured, you know, we'll go to church, and then after church, I'll take a shopping, and then go out to eat. She banged out my credit card deliberately, and she told me why. All you needed to have was a card and some flowers in the morning. I was like, really?
Yeah, as you stay married longer, your wife will just tell you that, and vice versa. So rather than in that scenario, first wedding anniversary, your wife's obviously hoping that you'll put flowers on the bed and a card in the morning. After 15 years or whatever of marriage, you say, wife, would it be possible for you to put some flowers on the bed for me in the morning on our anniversary? I like that. And then you go, yeah, no worries. And then everyone's happy.
Just communicate, right? Just tell us. We don't know these things.
I could have abbreviated that whole sentence with the word communication, yes.
Well, I think that's the problem, because flowers, that's where all the problems stem from.
That was a good one. It's always been a at my side, too.
And a better tip,
It's,
buy flowers when it's not an anniversary. Do that she described on your first anniversary on a day that has no significance at all. And you haven't done anything wrong, and she hasn't done anything specifically special for you. Nothing like that. Just out of the blue. There you go. So 2 weeks from now on a Wednesday, get some flowers, and then on the Thursday morning, put them on the bed with a card. Just to say I love you.
yeah, I did that for my wife. I bought her a dozen flowers, and it wasn't any special day. I just saw them. They looked pretty. I said, she'll like this. And she was very happy.
Exactly.
I do that.
These days are set aside so that women can note them in their diary. And then, obviously, as a man, you've got to remember something. So it's completely contrary to how men and women think, right? It's a set date that's designed to be set so you can remind your loved one that you love them. Yeah? But if you forget, it suddenly goes into a net negative. Oh, so you don't love me.
Well, what about the other 364 days that I do love you?
If you got the one day you were supposed to remember and tell me that you remembered and you forgot.
No, that's a bunch of nonsense. I'm tired of that. And I'm going to change everything. All right?
That's right.
Those
Neil.
364
Neil.
days count.
This is not a good. This is definitely not good marriage advice if that's what you think this is.
Those days count.
Listen, Hallmark and the flower growers will get mad at you because they'll be out of business. Come on, Neil, what are you trying to say? They commercialize love?
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a card. I'm going to show more. Instead of running out, I'm going to make my own card and write my own sayings. And that would mean more than anything.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. Just spend $1 on a card that's almost blank with a pretty picture on it. That's it. Just spend $1.
No. Listen, flowers. If you go to the store, the cards are like $7 to $15 now. You gotta go to the dollar store to pick up a card, but it's like really goofy cards at the dollar store.
Doesn't matter.
Well, listen, when the kids draw something and give it to grandpa, that's more meaningful than if they went to the store and bought something. So I think Neil's got a point here.
Okay. You scroll out something in crayon for your wife. I'm sure she'll love it.
I still have crayon pictures from my kids and my grandchildren, and they say, "Oh, you kept it." I go, "Of course, you gave it to me."
Yeah, from your grandkids and kids. Okay, make your own card. It sounds like a wonderful idea.
Well, what do you think Hallmark is? They made a card and they started selling it to you.
Just because they've got a guillotine and a printer doesn't make them better.
Okay, fine. Neil, I'll make your card. Pay me $1.
Listen, Nathan, Tent is right. My wife likes those papyrus cards, and they go for like $7, $8, $9, man, for a card.
Yeah, but you've missed the point entirely. How high are expectations on Valentine's Day? Right? On Valentine's Day, you are expected chocolates, the flowers, the card, $7 card. On Thursday the 16th, the standard of the card no longer matters. Because it's a card where there wasn't a card, wasn't an expectation for a card. There was no card or standards laid down on that Thursday. Do you understand?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. Chocolate covered strawberries, my wife's favorite, my favorite. Or for the same price, a card. So I bought chocolate covered strawberries, and I said, it was either a card or this. Are you mad at me? No, I'm not mad at you.
Here's the problem with that, Tent. I dig the chocolate covered strawberries, but when you buy them and they can't compare to the ones that she makes, it's a problem.
Well, then buy the chocolate and the strawberries, watch her do it once, and you go do it for her.
Oh, yeah, that'll work out great.
That's not that difficult.
By the ingredients. Anyway, I think you've all missed my point completely. But there we go.
No, we heard your point. We're just having a banter with you. That's all.
I understand. I do that. I am going out. I am going to freaking buy the $10 card. I'm on my way now.
You don't have to buy the $10 card. I don't know. I wouldn't buy a $10
Put
card.
the guilt trip on Neil. He's trying to qualify for a house, and you're making him go into debt for $10. How do you feel?
I don't feel the slightest bit remorseful.
Hey, were you around yesterday when we got into the werewolf sighting that I had?
Or is that why that members only video got demonetized?
What the heck are you talking about?
We got into this thing where I saw a werewolf in Alabama, and Brian was telling me it was a dog man, and then we got into the whole thing and looking into these things. But when I looked up the picture, that's what I saw, the dog man.
Too much. Well, you know, with the ballers quitting on the ball, not coming here because they got nothing to back up, we have to have a little fun time. So I guess the werewolf, the dog man, the flowers, it's part.
Listen, I don't think I was wondering about that. Like, usually, you know, when it gets like this, somebody does come in and they try to prove this spinning water ball, but it's not been happening. I think they're done.
No, they're done because in their world, their best got killed here. Now, of course, they weren't their best, but to them, they were their best. So their best came here. Then their best couldn't come here, so they just hang around and chat. Now, Phil Bell's been in chat forever. Why doesn't he ever come on the show and let's hear his voice and let's talk to him? I mean, he says a bunch of rubbish in chat, but he won't say it on the show.
Yeah, I think he's a troll.
Well,
there might be somebody out there that, you know, sets me straight, especially at the moment in this financial crisis where everyone's feeling the pinch, me included. It'd be nice, you know, if someone came along and said, no, look, you can too also participate in that juicy globe earth, anti-flat earth content because you just didn't know this. I'd be like, oh, you're my saviour. You're like Math Powerland II. Thank you so much. I can now partake in that juicy, profitable globe earth content because you've set me straight. Now, it's unfortunate that I've been cursed knowing the earth's flat. But there we go. You know, I can't be dishonest about it, but maybe someone will convert me.
Cursed.
I love the way you said that. That is awesome.
It's a blessing that you came to acknowledge that Earth is not a spinning water ball. But I see what you're saying.
Not with a YouTube hat on.
Better on the other side.
With a YouTube hat on, it's a curse. With a general worldview, general life view on the whole thing, then it's a blessing. You know, it's a very wondrous thing. And it's something that, you know, obviously I do a show on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you think about it. Some people do their job and don't give it a second thought the moment after they step out of the office or whatever they do. Me, I do. I ponder it daily. You know, when I'm out and about doing whatever I'm doing with the kids or whatever, it's something that is very much prevalent in my life and does give me great joy. You know, the looking up at the sky when I describe it, the wondering what it is. I've done that prior to Flat Earth. I still do it now, but with a bigger smile. So with that hat on, it's a blessing. However, when I look at my YouTube stats and go, God, I shouldn't have spent 2 months fucking around with this hardware. You know, God, it's really caused a financial detriment. Well, that's obviously going to be viewed negatively, isn't it? So with that hat on, I'm like, no, this is bad. This is bad. I need to do something about this. And maybe someone out there does have the answer. They're like, no, you're just going wrong because you think it's flat and it's not because... And then they'll tell us. You never know.
No, they can't because they are even saying it's flat. They needed the flat earth to have their false model.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, for now, we'll be pointing that out. I mean, that's obviously the roadblock that stands in their way to correcting us, because if they're under the misapprehensions that they've got a model and their globe model is where all the flat maps come from, not appreciating that they're derived from the celestial sphere model, which is a flat Earth model, then, you know, obviously we'll have to point that out to them and just accept our disappointment. But there's got to be people out there that just know how wrong we are.
If I end up taking that course at the local college here on astronomy, and they get on this subject, and I raise my hand, say I go to class and don't do it online, for example. I raise my hand and I say, why is it that we're using the archaic celestial sphere model, which presumes and assumes the Earth is at the center of the universe and everything is moving around it? Why are we still there if it's the other way? Can you imagine the jaw dropping in the class?
Yeah, why are we talking about being at the center of a sphere Earth when you're claiming we're on the outside edge of it? Why are we transposing this conversion from a flat Earth model into a globe as part of the original flat Earth model when you're taking angles to stars? Why are we standing at what would be the molten iron core of a presupposed spherical Earth when we do any of these measurements and put them into application on an equatorial plane that's also flat? Why is any of this necessary? Why do we have to convert to spherical if it's spherical? None of this makes any sense if it's a globe.
Correct.
Yeah, but they're not rhetorical. Well, I mean, over the years, we've asked the housekeeping questions in a manner that because of the way they're phrased. But ultimately, these are still, as farcical as I'm making it seem, legitimate questions for a Western world that thinks they're on a sphere. I don't see any illegitimacy in any of the things we ask daily in housekeeping. If we're on a sphere, these shouldn't be issues that we could be capable of raising, let alone not have answers to them.
They should be knocking down the doors to prove us wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you still got the problem of the assumption begging the question. No one has seen Earth curvature, and no one has observed Coriolis, Earth-based Coriolis. And water at rest doesn't bend. So they want us to believe we're turning, even though there's no proof for it. They want us to, believe that the Earth is round and curvature exists, but there's no visual sites for it. So it's a belief. It's all there as a belief, and none of it has been proven, but they've got all the consensus science and consensus media and magazines. And as Neil said, baseball player said this. And so they got everybody, including the football player, who said, he wants to go to the moon. It's all a fairy tale. It's a matrix of lies, but that no one's ever got any proof for it.
But that was the amazing thing to me, was there was no proof of this nonsense that I believed all these years, that I was taught in school, that I thought I knew, what the solar system was. And it all turns out to be not true. That was the shocking thing to me.
Yeah, well, it's the evergreen subject matter, as Nathan said. And what's happening here at the moment is the destruction of the lie. And Nathan, you just hang in there, whatever it takes, because your show is going to be remembered, and it will grow when the numbers change and more come to our side, because the truth is going to prevail. The truth is going to prevail. I've got so many things happening here that once, in my mind of networking and seeing how it could spread, that could bring thousands of people to your show once certain other things happen first.
Yeah. On the more proactive side, though, it is just down to how much work I put into that particular aspect. So as much as I'm knackered and having lots of late nights, as I keep saying, it's hardware related. Well, what would I typically be doing? Well, for example, yesterday, there's discussion about Craig and his claim that he's taught his kids how to find their location using a pendulum. Now, on that particular show yesterday, called that out. Bullshit. Let's see it. Well, what would I have done if I wasn't doing exactly what I did, which was streaming to members only, and prior to streaming to members only, streaming to unlisted videos, just so it's streaming, so it's physically broadcasting, but just to nobody, for hours and hours and hours rather than producing a video that would spark some attention. Because the attention, the focus for people searching this subject goes to our competitors. So if you're going to try and ultimately gain some of that traction, you have to leech off them. That's the only way to do it. Now, they'll all call me out for it, and I never respond when they go, oh, you're only doing this to get the... Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm doing it to get the clicks. The clicks go to you. I want them. So if your face gets me, I'll put it on and discuss some nonsense crap that you've come up with about pendulums. And that's what I'll do. But I can't if I'm streaming to members with pointless videos that get no views because they're just test streams to see if I can get the computer to crap out. And like yesterday's stream and the stream before that and the stream before that, they all work. Every test works. And then you come to the day, I'm, you know, very nervous about pressing the live button in whatever it is, 15 minutes time. Will it just do the same thing again? Will it just crap out? I don't know. I suspect that the memory isn't good enough. The memory controller can only cope with 2 sticks of RAM. Therefore, getting it to run at any significant speed with 4 sticks is just too much for the chip inside the memory controller inside the chip. That's the bottom line. The new generation 13th gen has much better memory controllers and can do decent speeds on 4 sticks. So it's just the generational thing. They improved all of the other things except for the memory controller. Fine. They also offered you to be able to buy it with DDR4. So you go, okay, that's why they've done it that way. It's reached and breached the quality of DDR4. It's just about good enough to run DDR5. Leave the memory controller as it is. That's what they've done. Okay. But with 2 sticks, it'll run like a dream. Nobody has any issues with 2 sticks. So that's the next step. I can pull it out after yesterday's show in the pre-show. My daughter was playing Minecraft in the pre-show. Well, what that's doing while it's streaming and using the iGPU to encode is putting a very heavy load on the memory. It's loading on all these different textures from a game. Well, that's normal. That's how a game runs. However, if the memory's not quite stable, then suddenly it'll start to shit the bed, which is what it does. And then when you add an extra load to the memory, i.e. add another stream to the iGPU, which is directly using the memory for its video memory because it doesn't have any, suddenly it goes wrong and stops working. It hits 99% because it can't decode all the errors that it's being fed by the crappy memory that's overheating and doing all the wrong things and unstable and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, like I say, this is the PC's last chance today to just work without issue. If it doesn't, like I say, I'll take it down to the computer shop. I've already sent him an email and saying, look, this is the situation. I've lowered and lowered and lowered the speed to the point where the performance is hampered when I start doing multiple things, which is nowhere near good enough for a PC of its price. Therefore, what I want to do is rip out a couple of sticks of RAM. I don't want to. I'd rather have larger capacity because it'll extend the life of the computer. Like with the last PC, when I took out a little bit of RAM, suddenly it was unusable. Well, this is the opposite. If you keep lots of RAM in it, it'll stay usable for a long time as applications get more RAM demands on them. Well, that's what I'd like. I'd like it to stay in this configuration and not crap out. But we'll see. If it does, it's like, okay, fine. Come Saturday or maybe Monday of next week, I'll just take it down to the shop, take the motherboard off the back of it, which means taking the entire thing apart, take 2 sticks of RAM out, I'll change a few fans for some quieter ones, and then I'll put it back together with the help of my computer guy, put it back in, and never, ever, ever think about it ever again. But like I said,
that's great.
That's the plan.
But the thing is, you're still making history. Brian, you, Huey, no matter what you say, you're making history right now.
I'll get my daughter in to play Minecraft. Hopefully she'll force it to fail. We'll see. I think you're right, Neil. We're making history, but by the same token, you know, it's not exactly profitable. And everything's really expensive at the moment. I can't moan because everybody in this country...
Ted said, hang in there. It will be.
Look,
sure. It's just
no,
it's one of those that if it was just unique to me, then I'd be all right. If it was just like I'd messed around with hardware, my views had taken a bit of a dip. I've put out very few edited videos to promote that stuff. Then I could moan about it. I'd be like, oh no, you know, because of X, Y, and Z, I'm having a financial hardship. However, in the very little news that I get, everybody in the country's like that. You're talking about it now, right? The pre-show, the start of the pre-show. You're in the same boat. Everybody's feeling the pinch. So I'm not unique, no matter what my unique circumstances are in terms of YouTube. So it's not something I'm reasonably inclined to moan about, is what I'm saying. You know, if it was unique to me, I'd just e-beg my way through it. But it's like, how are you supposed to do that when everyone around you is feeling the same pinch you are? You can't even moan about it, really. I'm not moaning that you are, by the way, Neil. I'm not saying you shouldn't moan about it. You do whatever you like. But yeah, everyone's feeling the pinch at the moment. It's crap, really, but that's life for everybody in the Western world currently, isn't it?
Unless you're a refugee.
And that's a political discussion for a different show. Well, that killed the conversation. Who'd have thunk it? Talking about RAM and stuff, killing the conversation. Such an open-ended conversation. I'd have thought everybody wanted to talk about RAM speeds and configurations of DDR5. I'm shocked.
Change your name to Nathan Valdez. You'll be okay.
Nathan Valdez. Valdez is coming. That was a Western I remember watching. My granddaughter the other day was in the room while I was talking. She's like, twisting her head and her eyes got wide open. And I was talking to a friend on the phone about flat Earth. And I looked at her and we started talking about it. And I have a little inflatable globe here like Neil deGrasse Tyson has. And I said, see that? That's not real. This is what the Earth is. And then I said, if anyone tells you otherwise, you tell them to come and talk to your grandpa. And tell them that I study it every day. And they better come ready. And she smiled. She goes, okay.
Did we say hello to Brian yet?
Hey, Brian.
That was a no. Hello, Brian. Getting a brew or something. I'm sure I'll say hello in a minute if he's heard us in the background.
Mic check. Did you hear me say hello to Brian?
I heard you say hello to Brian. I said hello to him. He's just,
all right.
He's just not responding. He's obviously joined and buggered off.
Yeah, he's chasing
his...
his...
me say Brian is another guy that's making videos and making history?
Yeah,
he's probably...
You'll see.
He's probably chasing his cat somewhere in the house.
Brian, a cat person. Brian doesn't strike me as a cat person.
No, he's got a couple of cats.
Oh
yeah,
wow!
He's got a cat. Meanwhile, he's a pit bull.
Well, one of the cats' name is Blackie, I think.
Okay.
Oh, that was creative.
Well, yeah, I mean, he likes cats because he makes perfect videos.
Subscribe today to Brian's Logic YouTube channel.
How about 10th Man's Puns? Subscribe today to 10th Man's Puns. I mean, my goodness, out of thin air, I can pull them out. I get no credit.
The Beatles got a song called The Sun King. I'm going to do all the words over and call it The Pun King.
You can't hate a punster. See, I throw out a pun when things get tough and when the room gets silent, I throw out a pun and it just eases the crowd. And then I go back at it.
I'm your biggest fan.
Well, don't make any noise because Nathan doesn't like fans. That's why he doesn't like my puns.
Hey everybody, sorry about that. As soon as you mentioned my name, my hands were wet. I couldn't do anything about it.
Okay, answer the question. How many cats do you own and what's their names?
Oh, I have 5 cats and several stray cats to come around to me. So there is...
Brian.
Well, hey Nathan, there is Blackie, Paws, Fat Oak, Grady, Bandit. Then there is Bongo, Matty, Whiskey, and Cushion.
See? You can be a flat earther and like cats.
Yes, you can. You have my permission.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry if I'm just dogging you, but it's true now.
Hello, guys and girls in
Boston,
Gilded.
bigger than a fight.
How you doing?
Hi, Nathan. How's your computer today? Everything okay?
It was yesterday. It's fine. Same as it was yesterday. When it craps the bed on the live stream.
Don't say nothing.
Well, I pre-warn you, right? Like every morning. I'm in a good mood. Everything's working. If I press the live button and it craps the bed, there won't be a live show. I'm just gonna give up. Just so you know.
All right, no problem.
So
We had a good pre-show. We had a good pre-show. We figured out the meaning of cards, our existence based on reality. So you've done your part today.
Not really. But what I'm saying is that I want to move forward into next week without ever giving the hardware any more concerns. Now, it might be the case that starts as of now, as opposed to, hooray, I won't have any more, like I've optimistically suggested in previous videos. It's like, I hope the PC's listening. It's your last chance to work. Otherwise, you can have parts ripped out of you.
Listen, there should be a new rule. We should treat the computer talk like we do the 90s. Don't talk about.
Love the sound effects.
There is no 90s. There is no computer problems.
So who do we got in
Hey,
Gilded?
Ken, the other day when I had my panic attack, I'm telling Nathan about it, and all of a sudden I hear a sheep. So I thought he was being a wise guy, calling me like chicken guy type of, what are you doing? And it was his daughter playing the video game. It came in at perfect timing. It started, just as I was sharing my heart.
Hey, if it's sheep, then it must be sheer coincidence.
And Nathan was like, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything.
Gilded, who's there besides One Deck?
One Deck, about your poem yesterday. You know I love your poetry, but I just think there was too many F-bombs.
Well, I did say that when I wrote that, I was feeling very wound up and frustrated. I think I've been in Discord for a while, talking to people, and that's how it affected me. And
Oh, that's crazy. Say no more.
Hey, he went to hell and back. Give him some grace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
say no more. If you're in Discord, you will get frustrated.
Yeah, but it's just the way I felt, and that's the way I had to deliver it. I could deliver it differently and take them F words out and change them to bloody or bloody hell or something. But that's the way I wrote it originally.
I like it the way you wrote it. It's one of those things. You write these things down as they come to you, and if it needs an F word in poetry, that's where it's most forgivable, because it kind of, it just flows out of you, right? That's how it is. You can't change it. That's how it is.
I said too many.
Nah, there is no too many in poetry. It doesn't work like that.
Look, the reality is he did it the way he felt, which is fine. But now if he wants to do another version, that'd be fine too. So it's up to him.
Instead of
I know what you mean.
No.
I know what you, Neil. I know what you mean. There is quite a lot of it, but I think that's part of the emphasizing the frustration.
Exactly.
I overdid it on that word intentionally because I was.
My eldest daughter loves art, right? So I take her to an art class, and in the art class they teach her about the various different methodologies of different artists, and often they're not intentionally trying to be controversial. They're trying to step outside of the box, do something that isn't necessarily expected. Now, I'm not saying that swearing's unexpected, but that's part of the art, and it's like saying, well, Dali's art is a bit out there. if he just changed this, maybe he could do another version that's just a little bit more, you know, palatable. No, it doesn't work like that. It's the same with poetry. No, you're not going to change the Dali picture. That's how it is, you know. Anyway. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Arwin, trying to get in the middle of the intro, as is fairly typical. We're also joined by 10th Man, Neil, Brian, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good.
Woo!
Excellent stuff. Computers were actually functioning perfectly for a change, which is a surprise, to say the least, but good stuff. Let's do a bit of housekeeping, as I tried to do yesterday, as we haven't got through a full housekeeping session in probably a month. I don't think we completed it yesterday. We were about two questions shy, so I'll try and keep it in a fairly regular order so we can rattle through it. No answering the questions before they're asked. Let's see if we can keep this relatively concise. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Oh.
Well, can I just say something on that, Nathan?
Absolutely, that's what it's for. Go ahead.
I think we spoke yesterday about some of the evidence points you'd get if you was a normal, I'll say normal person, somebody who's just looking at evidence of Earth curve, and you get some. I'll read 7 of the answers out for you, which you'd get on the internet if you was looking into the proof of Earth curve. And it says 7 ways to prove Earth is round. I won't go into, I'll just give you the points. Watch a ship sail off to sea. Point number 2, watch a lunar eclipse. Number 3. Point number 4, travel through or even within different time zones. 5, watch a sunset. 6, measure shadows across the country. The best one. Point number 7, Google International Space Station photos. Now this is at the top of your search menu. This is the top 7 ways to prove that the Earth is round. So I just thought I'd share that with everybody.
No, that's okay. Let's cover them. I mean, I was listening to them, and up until the one that you said last, which was photos from the International Space Station. Yeah, and this is top 7 ways of proving you're on a sphere, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, photos from anywhere of a sphere Earth would convince me. So let's deal with that first, because the others, not one of them was self-explanatory to say this proves you're on a sphere. Eclipses, shadow, going and look at shadows, watching boats. None of these are self-explanatory. None of these say because when you watch a boat, X, Y, and Z will happen, and therefore A, B, and C is the cause. That's not being asserted. Watch a boat. Now, maybe it goes into detail about each and every one of them, and that's just the introduction. But nonetheless, based on the introduction, only one of them would suggest that we live on a sphere, and that's photos of a sphere. Right? So let's start there. Does anybody want to add anything before we do cover ISS photos?
Yes. What was number 3? Because
We'll get to that.
he clipped out.
Eclipse.
No, lunar eclipse was 2. What was 3?
On deck. What was
Number 3. Oh, yeah, sorry. Number 3 was the climb a tree.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'm sure there's context given in the article, but I'm just going on face value. Hello, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Just based on face value, none of them are self-explanatory. Climb a tree? I can prove zombies exist. How? Climb a tree. Doesn't explain why that proves zombies exist or why Earth's a sphere. So we'll maybe get into them at a later stage. But a photo of Earth as a sphere. Okay. Where's the ISS exactly?
Supposedly in the vacuum of space outside of Earth.
Can't have gas pressure out of container. That's impossible. It's fair.
And that's somewhere that is real. Any evidence you can have gas pressure, like we're all breathing, without a container?
Never.
Well, the picture's from the ISS.
We're just establishing what the ISS is and where the ISS is. It's claimed to be a spaceship. Okay? Space, right? Outer space, that's where it's supposed to be. Okay? What's that? A vacuum. Okay? Is there any evidence you can have gas pressure, like we all breathe, without a container to facilitate men going out to outer space beyond a barrierless gas pressure that violates the second law of thermodynamics? Are the pictures real? Have they come from a real place? If it's from a sky vacuum, then definitely not, because there isn't a sky vacuum. If that's where they're claiming they've come from, then they're not real pictures.
Nathan, I think I have. You might amend that housekeeping question a little, asking not just gas pressure, but gas pressure or the lack thereof. Right?
Okay,
Because you also need a
I
vacuum.
understand what you're asking. Is there any evidence you can have a vacuum without a container, is what you're saying? I'll ask that also. Any evidence you can have the sky vacuum or any vacuum without a container?
Not a
Listen,
chance.
I seen it on TV last night. You're going to tell me the telly's lying? They were speaking to 4 people on that thing. A football player, a well-known football player.
Hold on.
Marshawn Lynch.
Slow
was
down, slow
communicating
down.
with them. You're going to tell me it's a lie?
Slow down. You're not giving context. You saw... What I've heard is ramblings about a football player being there. Where's there?
He was speaking to them while they were in the space shuttle floating around. I seen it with my own eyes on the telly.
You saw them on the space shuttle floating around on telly?
That's correct.
Okay, give us a bit more context. What did you actually see? I don't watch telly.
He was talking to the astronauts while they were doing their job on the ISS.
So we're talking about an internal shot.
So it showed there was no gravity there.
Don't tell me what was, just tell me what you saw. You saw an internal shot of men floating around, correct?
Yes, and they were talking to Marshawn Lynch, who was grounded on Earth.
Yeah, let's not worry about who they're talking to. I'm just concerned with what you saw. You saw an interior studio shot of men talking to each other.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it.
That's a fact. Even if they claimed to be somewhere that they can't possibly be, that would be the second law of thermodynamics violation detailed earlier, that is known as the sky vacuum or outer space. They aren't there. That goes without saying. So what are you left with? Well, they claim to be in outer space on a little light that is claimed to be this interior shot of men floating around. Well, they're not in space, but they are on your telly floating around. Okay. Proving that space is real? Definitely not. There's still a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that they'd have to be in for them to be on the light that they say they're on. They're definitely in a studio. And even if that light really was in a sky vacuum and that was demonstrably true, that light in the sky would be a flying studio. It isn't. It's a flying light with a very unusual shape.
Oh, dear.
But it's not a studio. That light is not the studio with men inside it. That's a studio with men inside it, shockingly.
But maybe gas particles behave a certain way here on Earth, but when you get up higher into space, maybe they're able to just...
Look, there is no space. No. Right, let's try this one more time, Neil. Space is where they're claiming their studio is. So what you're describing is what happens in the studio called the ISS. Okay. Now, we can argue all day about what happens in the studio. What matters is, where is that studio? Is the light in the sky we see going past that studio? Well, let's find out. What do they say the studio with the men in is? They say it's a spaceship. Okay, what space? A vacuum. Oh, well, it's definitely not that, is it? So they say the studio's in a vacuum, and they say the light is that studio. But that light is just a light, and there are no studios in sky vacuums. So what they say the light is, it isn't. Because they're claiming their studio is in a vacuum, and it can't possibly be. We all clear? That was number 1 off your list of 7.
I'm all clear, but I don't think you're clear. Until we, as individuals, can get up there and demonstrate that there could or could not be gas pressure uncontained, then I think they have the upper hand. They're there. We're not.
No, third time's a charm. They are where? In a studio filming conversations between footballers. That's where they actually are, factually speaking. Where do they claim the studio is? In Narnia. Narnia isn't real. The sky vacuum isn't real. It doesn't matter if the footballer's conversation takes place in Narnia or space. If that's where they're claiming they are, neither location is real. You can claim a location shot is somewhere it isn't. Often, movies get filmed in cities that they're not actually claimed to be located in. Yeah, RoboCop. It's Dallas, right? The municipal building, or whatever it's called, that cop building, is in Dallas. Where's RoboCop set? Detroit. It's not in Detroit, right?
You're talking about a movie, Nathan.
The set was in Dallas. Well, the set is wherever NASA have decided to put the ISS set. On Earth, with lights and cameras and power and an editing suite next to it. That's where the studio is, somewhere on Earth. They say...
You're talking about a movie.
What?
RoboCop the movie.
Can I try to help Neil here?
So, sorry, what distinguishes RoboCop as a movie from the ISS on telly? How is it any different?
Movies are with actors that act and they play a role. These people are American and Russian heroes, right? There's a Russian guy up there as well. I don't know if he's still there.
Back to this again.
But these
up
are
there.
Doing something for the world.
It's 4th time's the charm. You keep reverting back to they're heroes because they're up there. What, somewhere that isn't real? They're heroes because they've saved Aslan in Narnia. No. Narnia isn't real. Yeah, but they saved Aslan. They're American. They're heroes. They saved Aslan. Narnia's not real. Doesn't matter what they say they're doing or where they say they're doing it if the place isn't real. They can continue to say, but we're in space. We beat the Russians to Narnia. Wow. You didn't, because it isn't real. They didn't beat anybody to anywhere. They've claimed that they know what heaven is, and they're selling you their heaven from a studio claiming to be a light in heaven. That's what they're doing. They're literally claiming they're in heaven. It's insane.
It does sound like the Neil.
Where do you
deGrasse
go when you go
Tyson's-
in a plane, Nathan? You go in the sky, right?
This
They're
is what the
just going
shows
up
should be
higher.
about. This level of passion. I know you guys are enthusiastic, but it does have to have this level of passion from me for people to want to share this show. And for the last 2 months, it just hasn't had it. Well, thank the Lord the computer's working and I can finally be passionate about how stupid NASA is.
No, it's not. Nathan, you're calling it stupid, but I guarantee over 90% of the world believe that these people are up there. In the
Fifth time.
ISS.
Fifth time. Up where now?
gosh.
Fifth time.
I know what you're saying.
Can I try with Neil something? Neil.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, just 2 questions. To have a vacuum, what must you do?
It has to have containment. I understand this.
Okay. To have gas pressure, what must you do?
You have to have containment. I understand this. Here on Earth, it demonstrates that. But I'm
Hang
just saying,
on,
what if
hang on,
it's
hang
not
on.
listening to me?
Just go with him,
Hang
Neil. Just
on,
relax.
hang
Just go with
on.
him.
Tranquilo. All right, so you've established to create a vacuum, you have to have an enclosure and take all the gas out of it so there's no gas pressure. So you have a vacuum. And in order to have gas pressure, you got to have a container and put air in it and create gas pressure. Would you agree with that summary of what you said?
Of course.
Okay, so what Nathan is trying to say is that when they're doing Hollywood type of stuff, it isn't just for actors. NASA's doing that kind of stuff because what they're trying to get you to believe is that someone got onto a spaceship in the gas pressure Earth, went out somehow, got out of the container that allows for gas pressure, then somehow got into a container where there is no gas pressure, and that transfer of getting from one container to the other is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm just saying things could be different in space. You're just saying, where's
Oh,
that place?
fifth,
I
fifth
know
time,
all
5
that.
times wasn't enough. In space, in Narnia. Yeah. Let's do a quick shout out to somebody I haven't plugged for a while. Dilly Gill, D-I-L-L-Y, space, G-I-L-L. YouTuber. Go and subscribe today. What Dilly Gill does is takes apart the studio and what the studio is doing and the techniques and cinematography of the studio known as NASA. Quote from Dilly Gill. NASA are on the cutting edge of cinematography. They're not on the cutting edge of space travel. They're on the cutting edge of making telly.
So you're telling me those guys up there know that they're not up there and they're all acting and deceiving the world.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me right
Yes, without a doubt. The people who claim to be in space, are liars. Shameless, overt, outrageous, over the top liars. Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. All astronauts that claim to have been outside of Earth's, quote, atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoron with no barrier, any who claim to have been beyond that are liars. There is no outer space. There is no atmosphere, sphere-shaped air without containment. To claim that you've been beyond to a second law of thermodynamics violation is a lie. And you will and would know that you were lying when you told people that you'd been to a place you hadn't been. Likewise, anybody who claims to have gone to the outer limits, the next dimension, the afterlife, heaven, you name it. They're all liars too. Nobody's been, they're liars. Yes.
Have you tested gas pressure beyond Earth? Have you personally tested how gas behaves other than here on Earth?
There is no other than here on Earth. You give me an exception where I can test it beyond here on Earth. Oh, should I go to Aslan's territory or outer space that isn't real? Which one do I do to test it other than being here? How can I do that? Besides,
Well, that's
we're talking
right.
about laws of nature. So your appeal to something that isn't even in our realm is inconsequential. We live here. We have natural law. Natural law governs the world we live in. Now, if you're going to say, well, up in the sky, it's a different world. What, like heaven? Yeah, they've renamed it space and decided what it's going to be. And they've said that they're the ones flying around in it. They're not. They're just liars. They're trying to be your god.
It's like what they remember when we was little and we used to watch like Star Trek and Star Wars, and you watch the films and it's all fantasy and it's exciting and spaceships flying around. That's what NASA have done. They've tried to bring that down to reality, and now we've got grown men walking around thinking that's actually really happening. Them films that you used to watch as a child is now real and happening somewhere in La La Land.
Well, I got to admit, Neil is an excellent baller with full of passion. Awesome job, Neil.
I'm waiting for Arwen to help me
here. Why would Arwen do that?
Because he pointed that out too. That maybe gas behaves differently
no offense.
When it's so far high up.
No, what Arwen does is far more nuanced. Sorry, Neil.
Well, if you want to get through the housekeeping,
that is the other day.
If you want to get through the housekeeping questions, you better move on.
We were going through this list that One Deck had presented. I'd much rather be reactive to that. And in reverse order, we've covered photos, the only self-explanatory thing in the list. That there's a photo of Earth as a sphere. Therefore, you don't have to worry about it. Here you go. You want to know Bigfoot's real? Here's a picture of Bigfoot. There you go. That would do it for me, right? Would it not do it for you? Here's footage of Bigfoot doing Bigfoot things.
You're not listening.
Well, the thing is, though, as well, Nathan, that's what most people do believe. They look at these pictures and they take it as read that is true. They don't question anything. You do look at the ISS pictures and the NASA photographs, which we can all see are false. But people actually do. Grown-ass men are looking at these pictures and thinking it's actual reality. So people do actually fall for that.
Yeah, but One Deck, that's because they have trust already in those agencies. Once that trust is violated, then they won't. So this is why we have to tear down the lies of NASA. And once you do that, then their eyes can be open and they can realize these are just like Nathan is saying. Just someone gets in a costume, goes through the forest and say, here's a spotting Bigfoot. Everyone starts believing it. Well, NASA's done the same thing. But if you show they're going against natural law and they're violating, then people's cognitive, if they want, will start working in the proper manner and say, wait a minute, that can't happen. So they must be lying to me. And then the host of other evidences, like I'm looking at your list of 7 that you found on Google. I mean, these are most of them are perspective issues, and the other ones work on the flat plane as well.
Right.
Let me ask a question. On Mount Everest, is the air thinner?
Yes. Yes.
I liked it. I like the way Neil tried to do a burden of proof reversal on you, Nathan.
Say again.
Earlier.
Say again, Brian. We will come back to you, Neil.
Yeah, Neil earlier tried to do a burden of proof reversal on you 2 different times. He said, "Have you been up there to prove that air behaves different up in the sky?" He was begging the question, and it's like, "Have you gone up there to prove my claim?"
So Brian,
go on, Eli.
Is that a concession of our conversation the other day?
We'll get into this later. Let's get into this later, Eli. I'm really sorry. The rest of the list, you've compiled it into several things. 10th, but I'm hoping One Deck, if he's still there, will just take us through them in or reverse order, and we'll bundle them together, and then maybe move on with housekeeping. You there, One Deck?
Yeah. Yeah. The point. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
The point 6 is to measure shadows across the country.
Okay.
Is point 6.
Does it give more
It
context?
does give you a little bit of a... Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of context. Pick 2 locations that are some distance apart, at least a couple of 100 miles from each other, and on the same meridian. Grab 2 sticks or dowels or other objects of equal length, 2 tape measures, and a friend. Each of you will take 1 stick, dowel or object, and 1 tape measure to your location. Stick the object into the ground and measure the shadow. For accuracy, you should both take your measurements at the same time of day. Now, it goes on to say...
Hold on. You need a flat earth for this. Hold on. This requires a flat plane. This needs a flat earth.
It does go on to say, Nathan. Well, it does go on to say, on a flat earth, the shadow that is cast by each would be of the same length. However, if you and your friend compare notes, you'll find that one shadow was longer than the other. That's because due to the curvature of Earth, the sun will hit one part of Earth at one angle, and the other part of Earth at a different angle. Same time of day.
You need a flat earth for those angles. This doesn't work on a sphere Earth as a claim because you can't measure the angles on a sphere Earth. You haven't got 2 straight lines meeting at a vertex. You've got 1 curved line. So this doesn't work as a globe Earth claim. In fact, the very basis of the measurement proves we're on a flat plane. You can only get the angle measurements from a flat plane. Next.
Sorry, can I just add something to that?
You can. Go ahead.
Yeah, the shadows you see over a horizontal plane or over a globe Earth are exactly the same. The reason they're exactly the same is these measurements of the shadows, as Nathan just pointed out, as Eratosthenes proved, have to happen over a flat horizontal plane if the sun is small or close and local. Let's say, right? We don't know what the sun is, but if it's not a huge ball of plasma 93 million miles away, right? So to make the shadows work, the shadows we see in reality, for them to actually work on a spherical sphere Earth with a radius of 3,959 miles, then they had to claim that the sun wasn't close and local, but instead was huge and far away. So that would make the light from the sun to come in parallel as opposed to divergent. So it all has to start with a flat plane and then make the claim that the sun is huge and far away. The far away part is only to match the angular size, what they claim is an angular size of the sun. So all this starts on a flat plane. They have to then make the claim that the sun is really, really big and at a certain distance away for the light to come in parallel. But we all know that it is impossible to photograph or video parallel sun rays because the sun's light is always divergent.
Right, well, they'll need after the claim.
Nonsense.
The claim, as you pointed out already, utilises a globe Earth in an orthographic view with the sun and the Earth in the same shot and you looking at it side on, and then a depiction of the light coming in parallel. All of which requires R. Next.
Yeah, they had to beg the question that the Earth was a globe of a particular size, and then place the sun, make the sun a certain size, and place it a certain distance away for the shadows to work. Because otherwise, that would mean if they didn't do that, then the shadows prove that it's definitely not a globe and it's definitely a horizontal plane.
The same applies to all claim measurements of a sphere when you're talking about celestial objects. So, for instance, if they say they've got a radar bounce, and they say, oh, well, we got the distance to whatever celestial object, let's say it's the sun, and the reason is because we've got a return signal. Okay, what are their return signals and the timings based on? Well, they're based on their assumption of the distance to that celestial body based on their assumption of R and that Venus has the same R value as Earth, giving them the scaling values with Kepler's third law. Based on all of that information, they can say, given my assumptions of the distance, we should see a return signal at X time. It's like before you've even done anything, you've made multiple assumptions about what the distance is and therefore how long the return signal will be. So when you get, whatever the guy's name was, Bob, looking at the return signals with the NASA folk and going, yeah, there it is, right on time, in amongst all this fuzz and noise that doesn't make any sense. That's the return signal. Oh, I've definitely identified it in the exact time frame that the heliocentric model would demand.
They also had to use a fraudulent two-way speed of light calculation as the one-way or two-way, obviously, because it can't get, was a speed of light was never, ever measured. Never. I'd say it never will be. So they also had to use a calculation that's based on a pre-assumption, a calculation that is officially termed as Einstein's, not concept, Einstein's, it won't come to me, because Einstein used it within his general relativity, special general relativity.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, Lite. Sorry, that was the next point. My bad. Glad you're here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Einstein used it within his general relativity model, and he also used it within his equation E equals mc squared. The c is the speed of light squared. Two-way speed of light squared.
Hold on. Don't rumpus the point. This is important. The timings in terms of the light and the time it takes to travel is also very much an assumption that they've made within their timings. So Brian's just going over that. I just don't want it to get lost. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the two-way speed of light claim that they have is actually based on 4 pre-assumptions. It's based on the Earth being a globe that and of a particular radius. It's based on the sun being also a sphere, and that Kepler's analemma is correct, and it's an average. It's an average distance between a globe Earth and its heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. So it's all comes back to Kepler's analemma and a load of pre-assumptions. There's no measurement. The only person that they claimed measured that was a guy called Fizeau. He measured a tiny amount, right, of a second. This is what he claimed. There's 1 million microseconds in 1 second. I said 1,000 before because I'd forgotten. It was actually 1 million microseconds in a second. He claimed to have measured like a stupid small amount of that with a spinning wheel. It's complete and utter nonsense. He just referred to the original two-way speed of light claim and just tried to calculate what he was doing to match it. It's a load of rubbish. There is no speed of light measurement. That has never happened, probably never will. So anything you hear about it is all based on a calculation and nothing more.
Right, that was more than enough for Sticks and Shadows. What's the next one, Deck?
Next one, Nathan, is to watch a sunset. And basically what it's saying is to pick a nice spot from which you can watch a sunset at one point. And as the sun appears to set and go below the horizon, you also have a higher level place behind you which you can run up very quickly and the sun will reappear. This proves that the Earth is a sphere.
Gotcha. So if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then you'll be able to raise your elevation and see the sun reappear as it comes back from the physical geometric obstruction at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the globe Earth claim of a physical geometric sphere edge formerly known as Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. On screen now depicted as Al-Biruni claimed, with a straight line to C, the geometric physical limitation formerly known as Earth curve. We debunked it 1st Jan 2020, Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon marked as C in this diagram could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as asserted in this claim for the sun setting behind an Earth curve edge physical obstruction. However, we have demonstrable evidence that the horizon is not physically obscuring anything. It's beyond the oil rigs in the Black Swan image. It's a hill that's moved behind the things it's supposed to block. The horizon's not Earth curve. Seeing the sun for a second time doesn't prove that we've got a geometric physical limitation at the horizon called Earth curve. The horizon is not Earth curve. Next.
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah, go on.
You do like Neil deGrasse. For a start, the sun, you're not seeing the sunset. The horizon is not a physical location, it's an optical location that changes. Will change with optics, elevation, and weather. You can constantly see it changing with weather. You can stand in one place, looking straight out at the horizon, and within an hour, it can change its location. I've seen it happen time after time, right? So it's not a physical location. Secondly, the sun that you're seeing in the evening time, that you think is a physical thing setting, that is not the sun. What you're seeing there on the horizon is what's known as the sun mirage. This is an official thing. You don't ever see a physical sun going down behind a physical obstruction. That doesn't happen. Third, if you go and do what Neil deGrasse Tyson did, which is watch a sunset across the desert in Dubai, right, and then go up to the top of the Burj Khalifa, and then see the sun is still above the horizon, then the angle to the base of that, to the bottom, the lower limb of the sun, should be way, way lower if it's gone down behind the curve. It can't be higher than your angle to the ground underneath it.
Okay, let's pretend for a second. Like, oh, go on. Sorry.
I'm just saying, if your angle from the top of the Burj Khalifa to the ground down below is just a depression angle between two parallels, your eye line and the ground below. The sun's bottom limb cannot be a more shallow angle than that. It has to be a greater angle if it went down behind something. But it's not. It's a more shallow angle. Well, I'm finished.
Well, this image on screen is the black swan I described a second ago. So, by the claim that's made in this top 7, you've got a physical obstruction to the sun. In the same picture, this would have a physical obstruction to the oil rigs. Well, if the sun was being blocked at the same exact time, you just have to wait. And what is claimed to be a physical obstruction to these oil rigs, as you can see in this image, moves behind them. Well, physical blockages called earth curve, if they were real, wouldn't do that. They couldn't do that. Physical hills don't move. Now, yeah, they claim it would change because it's over a spherical surface as you raise in height. But it doesn't. It changes with the weather. And hills don't do that. We've debunked earth curve. The horizon isn't earth curve. So having earth curve cause sunsets is absurd when we can prove it's not a physical obstruction to the sun. It isn't. 1st Jan 2020, Black Swan. The horizon's not earth curve. Next.
Point 4 to prove the Earth is curved on a sphere. Travel through or even within different time zones. I'll just read you a little bit of what it tells you. According to a 2008 paper in Applied Optics by David K. Lynch, the curvature of Earth becomes somewhat visible at an elevation of 35,000 feet. Easily visible at an elevation of 50,000 feet. So if you're on the right commercial flight, you might be able to see the curvature of Earth with your own eyes. Just a little bit more. In the event that you're not high enough, though, you can still experience curvature of the Earth another way. For example, if you were to fly all the way around the world, you'd find that it would be nighttime in part of the world and daytime in another part. In that way, the existence of time zones itself is proof that the Earth is round.
Okay, so they're utilising the same exact claim, which is that we've got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. However, they're going against the standard globe Earth rhetoric in terms of how it's claimed to be demonstrably so. That would be Earth curve at the horizon by its physical blockage and obstruction of things behind it. Further to that, the actual rhetoric is that slap, 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 says Neil deGrasse Tyson, you're not going to see the left to right curvature of the Earth from 2 millimeters above this beach ball, which is the height of the ISS by comparison. So while we as flat earthers would, and as you correctly assert would be the case, if we were on a ball, we would see curvature from 35,000 feet and it would be pronounced at 50. We don't, and it's not how the globe Earth claims to clarify how it has Earth curve at the horizon, because that's with obstruction, not left to right curvature. That's a misapprehension of the actual globe Earth claim in the first instance. Would be true, and you say it is. But it's not how globe Earth is qualified as having curvature. So how are you going to mathematically prove that? How are you going to measure this left to right optical curvature in the periphery of your vision when that's how Earth curve isn't mathematically qualified. So it's a complete red herring, nondescript claim that he's not going to back with anything other than saying you can see Earth curving with your own eyes? Why does Neil deGrasse Tyson say you can't? I'll tell you why Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't, because you can't. Earth's flat. You'll never see any curvature at any altitude. But what you will see is a horizon at all altitudes, if visible. And if visible, it is an Earth curve. Because if it was, it would physically obstruct things exactly as claimed in the Earth curve maths, which is qualifiable. Not some wishy-washy you can see it out of a plane window, if you're high enough. Because no, that is definitely not the claim of a globe Earth. On the contrary, that is incorrect and not in line with globe Earth claims. More in line with our claim that you should see Earth curving at 35,000 feet, and you don't. Next.
Hang on. What has that got to do with time zones?
Nothing.
Because
nothing. It's a complete red herring.
They got the international date line out there in the Pacific Ocean. The sun rise to sunset, right? And then, so in England today, the sun rose before it's going to rise here in Idaho. Well, where's the marker that sets the beginning? It's the international date line over there somewhere in the Pacific. So the sun going over a flat plane works just as fine with that as well. It's
we observe and
nonsense.
we see that. We watch the sun come up and go down and pass over our heads as it does so. That's the sun apparently moving from your position, lightening you as it does so, and then darkening as it leaves. That can be described without any inference whatsoever about a spherical Earth. And the two that have preceded it required a flat Earth to assert your sticks and shadows. So this doesn't affirm a globe Earth in any way, shape or form. To link time zones and the moving of the sun, after claiming that the sun's being blocked by a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve, is just a next step into an affirmation ladder that they're building, because they're selling you something. They're getting you to nod along. Now, if you assume that the horizons block the sun, you can assume that as it went round the curve of the Earth to block by the horizon, it was proving it in different time zones. No, it proves the sun comes over my head and lights me and then gets dark as it passes. It doesn't prove that it's moving over a curved surface, unless I've already assumed, by way of your inference, that it was blocked by a physical Earth curve edge hill in the way when it went over to my right. It wasn't. We debunked the notion of it being blocked by a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. So this doesn't logically follow in any way, shape or form. It's a complete red herring, as it stands alone, unless you've bought into their assumptions to date, to this point, which we haven't. We've debunked them all. Next.
Point 3. Climb a tree. Imagine a vast plain with but one tree smack in the middle. If the Earth were flat, your vision would extend exactly as far while standing at the base of the tree as it would when at the top of the tree. However, the farther you climb, the farther your line of sight will extend to the horizon. That's because parts of Earth that were concealed from view by its curvature are now revealed because your position has changed back to the vast plain. The naked eye can see objects that are millions of miles away in space. Theoretically, with a clear line of sight on a clear night, one would also be able to see bright lights from faraway cities. That this is not possible is further evidence of a round, not flat Earth.
This demonstrates a complete lack of understanding when it comes to perspective. If you raise an altitude, you can open up the angle and therefore resolve more in your field of view. Has absolutely nothing to do with the assumption we debunked in the first 3 points that the horizon is obscuring your view, and upon raising in elevation, you will reveal things from behind that obstruction. The horizon isn't an obstruction. On screen now, it would be blocking your view to these oil rigs. Ergo, as you raised up, you'd see them from behind the obstruction, the hill that blocked your view. That's what his claim's making out. Ergo, this wouldn't be possible because it would have a hill in the way. You'd have to get higher to see this. We don't. It moved with the weather. The hill that they're claiming blocked the view. Now, further to that, saying that you climb a tree and that you can see forever is absurd. It's akin to an understanding level of Father Ted. This cow is close, holds up toy cow. That cow is far away. Now put the cow 16 million miles away. Can you see it, clown show that wrote this claim? Oh, you can't? Oh, so things just get too small to see then? It's not that if Earth curve isn't getting in the way you'd see forever, because that implies you don't understand perspective, like Dougal. Next.
Well, I just want to say, Nathan, I find that very rich from that person writing that, because the very thing they had to hijack was perspective, the Rayleigh criterion, the diffraction limit, all these things, and they also had to hijack refraction and other things. But the very thing they had to hijack to create, which was flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, which are measurements of perspective, right, via Polaris, right, via angles. They had to hijack that to create their globe. So it's very rich that they're talking about they're not being talking about how on a flat plane you can see forever. If you put on a globe, if you go up a tree, you'll be able to see over the curve. You know what I mean? It's like that's the very thing ye had to hijack to create your globe. And now you don't even know what it is. That shows how much how little this person actually knows about the model
and perspective. It's as dumb as Dougal. Yeah. Next.
Point 2. Watch a lunar eclipse. Solar eclipses get all the attention, but if you are able to catch a glimpse of a lunar eclipse, you can see evidence that the Earth is indeed round. Here's how it works. Earth passes between the moon and the sun. Sun projects Earth's shadow onto the moon in the night sky.
As demonstrated by... Oh, it's just that we see the effect of a shadow making a light in the sky turn red. I've seen it with my own eyes. And that shadow coming from the opposite direction as Earth would be if I assume it's a sphere with the sun behind me, behind the sphere. It did the opposite of that. It didn't move in the direction that a shadow would move, and it made the whole thing turn red. That's not what shadows are. Shadows don't make things red. So no, that's definitely not a claim. It also relies on an assumption that we are on a sphere, that we are assumed to be orbiting on a sphere, and that those orbiting spheres sit in a way where they occult one another. That's 3 very large assumptions to explain something that doesn't even tally with the explanation, because it's not a shadow, it went red, and it didn't move in the direction of a shadow based on a heliocentric orbital motion. So no, in every respect, no. Further to that, there's also something within the heliocentric paradigm that doesn't stack up very well with their model, which would be the Seleninian, which is where you have both sun and moon above the horizon. Not Earth curve, I might add. That's why this happens. It's got sod all to do with orbital motion and spheres getting in the way of one another, occulting to cause shadows. When you've got both of them above the horizon. What do they call that again? Oh, the impossible eclipse. You see, you wouldn't have impossibilities if it was real. It just wouldn't happen. It just isn't in a heliocentric orbital mechanic that they claim causes shadows when things turn red. It's nonsense. Anyone want to add anything to that?
I will add 2 things to it. Number 1, there is no such thing as a lunar eclipse. Nothing is getting occulted. There is nothing going in front of the moon. The moon has a coloration happening, maybe a darkening sometimes, or a coloration, and that coloration doesn't always go in the direction that they need it to go for heliocentrism, as Nathan just pointed out. So nothing gets occulted. You can see the moon through the whole of what they're calling a lunar eclipse. It's not being eclipsed. Nothing is being occulted. You're still seeing the whole of the moon, right? That's number 1, right? That doesn't happen. So technically, lunar eclipses don't exist. Something does exist, something does happen, but you can't call it an eclipse because nothing is being occulted. A solar eclipse, something is blocking the sun. Nothing is blocking the moon during what they're calling a lunar eclipse. That's number 1. Number 2, the the pathetic heliocentric claim for how a selenium eclipse happens, which is the one Nathan just detailed, where you have the sun and the moon above the horizon, and yet the moon is being eclipsed, right? Their pathetic explanation for that is that the sun is being refracted up. So that means that this eclipse, that is a very rare occurrence, but does happen every whatever amount of years, that somebody is able to, right? Think about this. Somebody is able to predict the refractive effects of that particular day based on the movement of the heavenly bodies.
Yeah, but they won't be, will they? Because they'll be changing the overall circumference of the ground they assume to be spherical when they have an impossible moon eclipse, because we've increased the size of the ground with an R value and a derivation thereof. They won't be doing anything with refraction. They'll say refraction and claim that they just let me end. So they'll say, oh, yeah, of course we've managed to figure out the exact refractive effects, and look, they work perfectly within our maths. It's like, yeah, but your refraction maths that you're going to be claiming for a sphere is based on a derivation of the R value we also debunked. I want to get the rest of these questions in.
In any of the predictions, one second,
I'm sensitive for me, please.
Where in any of the predictions for a solar eclipse, right, or a lunar eclipse, any of these things, is refraction part of it? Where?
Yeah, Brian, I got 2 seconds before things get loud. I just wanted to add something.
Go on.
First of all, there's a selenilian eclipse or selenihelion eclipse happening in a few days. So I would encourage everyone to watch this phenomenon. Also, it's my speculation. I haven't paid. I mean, you could just look on YouTube. It appears like whatever is happening to the moon isn't even happening in one direction.
Right. Having seen it with my own eyes, I know exactly what you're talking about, but let's move on. Go on, Deck, you still there?
Okay. Yeah. Straight in at number one proof Earth is a sphere. Watch a ship sail off to sea. If you were able to watch a ship sail off to sea, watch its mast and flag as it fades off into the distance. You will notice that, in fact, it does not fade out of the distance at all. Instead, you will see its mast and flag appear to slowly sink. The ship sailed beyond the point at which you would see it. Just to be sure, bring a pair of binoculars with you so that you can see even farther off into the distance.
Perfect. Say it with me. Say it with me. Black Swan. On screen still for the audience. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles and every distance to the horizon, as asserted in this claim with boats, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, where they assert the boat will be obscured by the physical geometric limitation called Earth curve. On screen now, a demonstration that the horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, is beyond its geometric limitations, therefore not a hill getting in the way. We can debunk the notion that these boats, they're not their oil rigs, have gone behind something physically obscuring them. They're not being physically obscured by anything. The horizon's behind them. Not at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Massively in excess of said measurement claimed to be a physical claim of Earth curve getting in the way of boats in this instance. It isn't. We've debunked it. We only need to debunk it once to prove beyond all certitude that there is no physical geometric limitation called Earth curve. We just have a horizon. There's only one, and the horizon in your, if you're a globe believer, begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, is a physical geometric limitation to your view blocking boats. Until we debunked it. Excellent work. Any last comments on this?
Below surface level. Below
surface level in their maths. Right.
I have. If you're watching a car drive over a hill, does the bonnet of the car go first and the boot of the car go last? Yeah. But what they're trying to hijack is the diffraction limit, right, from a horizontal, where the bottom of the boat gradually, right, recedes. upward, and then you can't see the boat anymore, but you can see the sail, and then eventually you can't see any of the sail. That is the fraction limit. That has nothing to do. It's purely optical. It has nothing to do with a curve. If that boat was going over a hill, a curve of earth, then the bow, which is the front of the boat, would have to go down, and the hull, which is the back, would be up. So the last thing you'd see would be the hull of the boat and the tip of a sail, if there's a sail, that you might be able to see sticking up above the hull. But you won't see the hull disappear before the sail. That won't happen. Like it's supposed to be going over a curve. That won't happen.
Right, who wants to play along with a perspective example? Any volunteers? Adam, you there? Arwin? Only because 10th and Brian have had a few words.
I'll deal with you if you want.
Only because you've chatted a lot already. Maybe Neil, can you play along? Anybody except for the people who've spoken the most? Perfect.
I'll play.
Perfect, Neil. So what we're going to do, Neil, is he's just left. Oh, it's refracted. We're going to put a brick about a mile away, Neil. And you've got pretty good eyes, right? Would you say a reasonable man standing looking into the distance at a brick will see it at a mile away?
Yeah, if you got a good eyesight, you should be able to see a brick at a mile away.
Perfect. Right, we're going to take the exact same brick and we're going to move it 3 miles away. Would you say that a reasonable man would appreciate that that brick is now too small to see?
Yes.
Right.
Kind of an impossibility.
Right, we're going to leave the brick on the ground, but we're going to add a couple of 100,000 other bricks on top of it to make a skyscraper. Something with a much wider angle. Bigger. Would you say it's reasonable to assume that you'll see the skyscraper?
Absolutely.
What about the brick at the bottom that disappeared at 3 miles? Will you see that, given that it's the same distance and size? When it was too small to see, will it suddenly become apparent because the rest of the building's apparent?
That's a negative. You still can't see the bottom brick.
So therefore, the bottom brick has disappeared simply because it's too small to see, but you can see the bricks above it. Nothing to do with an obstruction caused by earth curve and everything to do with the bottom brick having a limited angle to it, i.e. it's too small. But they say that's because earth curve got in the way of that bottom brick, don't they? Yeah, we've debunked that.
Then it would have been earth curve at the beginning, but it wasn't.
It never was. The horizon's not earth curve. We've only got one horizon, and their horizon was earth curve until we debunked it with the black swan on screen now. What they do is put you in Muppet Vision side on, show you the side of your own head and tell you how light's going to bend at a rate that basically leaves them in a paradox, not able to derive the R to give them the bent rate of the R to make the Earth bigger and then draw it out like it's a curved line that's called light in terms of refraction. It's all a massive con. That was good. We didn't get through more than one housekeeping question, but we certainly covered the 7... What was the name of the actual article? Just 7 proofs of a sphere?
Yeah, if you just do a search for proof of Earth curve, that'll be in one of the top 5 choices.
Yeah, that's not what I asked. What's the title of it, though?
Sorry, Nathan, I'm just driving at the moment. I can't get it.
10th, you looked it up as well. Do you know what the title is? Just so I can make sure I reference it in the video file for this video.
I've seen it before. I've just been taking notes. Let me go find it. I'll post it.
We've got 2 minutes.
It's Cell Mentor.
One more time.
Cell Mentor. CELL Mentor. 7 ways to prove the Earth is round.
7 ways to prove the Earth is round. That's the bit I needed. That's perfect. Excellent. So I'll change the title to 7 ways to prove the Earth is round debunked. And with that, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels. No, Gilded and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Epic. That was the first full, uninterrupted, issue-free live stream in about 2 months. Fantastic. I can tell you're all very pleased for me, as you should be.
I'm glad something is going right, Nathan.
Same, yeah.
A lot of effort put in.
Hell yeah. Again? Just need about 20 more shows like that, and the momentum will be built back up again. The momentum that's been lost, that is.
All right, I posted the link.
So good.
I got it. I got the link. Thank you. 7 ways to prove the Earth is round without launching a
And then
balloon.
and then there was another one too. There's 2 of them.
Hey, some of them have 10 proofs.
They were all terrible, though, weren't they? Let's be honest. I mean, I say they're terrible. If you're average Joe, they're perfectly sufficient to prove you're on a sphere. But by our standards, they're awful.
Oh yeah, they're pathetic. Well, this is what Joe Public are getting. This is what they're getting, and they believe in this absolute nonsense.
Today's show is excellent because I think sometimes there's a lot of newcomers into the conversation. Like it literally talk to people who say they haven't really looked into the flat earth too much, even these days. And so to hear like all of the fundamental arguments against bad logic versus it being actual proofs of a globe is very good, because they've arrived at these conclusions, and this 7 ways of proving a globe or disproving flat earth or whatever it is was arrived at with bad logic, and it can be demonstrated as it just has been. So what else they got?
That's what we were asking.
Yeah, that was great, especially for newcomers. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Debunked every one of them. The listeners, great.
Well, I don't think it's just for newcomers. I think it's fundamental for all of us, because these are the very things to share with everybody, and it's good to have a recap every now and then.
I'm going to turn it into a thumbnail with I'm going to somehow incorporate the wiki search that you get when you type it in, whatever you used as the phrase to search it with. I've used my own, and I've used that, and I'll put it as the backdrop. I don't know how, but I want to sort of suggest in the thumbnail that that's the search results.
Well, what Elijah said was a good summary, because whether it's 7 ways or I posted one that said 10 ways, that's flawed logic. All you got to do is ask questions and break down the statement itself. And it doesn't match up to anything.
Yep.
I mean, the one that cracks me up is climb a tree. Oh my gosh.
That cracked me up, because that was point 3, I think. But the point 4 which we did beforehand was saying it's possible to see Earth curve at 35,000 feet, possibly 50,000. So they're saying you've got to go up that high to see curvature, which you don't. And then on the next point is tree.
Well,
tree will be 35,000 feet.
Well, don't forget ships. The ships disappear. So didn't I just see Earth curve? And then the other one is you can't see it until you're 35, 50,000. Well, then how did I see the ship disappear if that wasn't it? Oh, we'll climb a tree. Well, they got the ship, the tree, and 30,000 feet. They can't make up their mind where you see it.
Oh, wow. One of the results, just looking as I'm editing it into this thumbnail, one of the results from unlv.edu is round earth clues. And I've covered it with what I've put on top of it, but it's how science ... You're like, round earth clues? How very Mark Sargent-esque.
So we're gonna play a game of Blues Clues now to figure out.
Are they just rubbing it in our face that they've basically taken all the search results and pushed them towards nonsensical globe stuff, and they'll even take the juicy material that's been pushed to the bottom of the lists and rename it as Globe Earth Clues? Clue 1, the empty theatre.
Yeah, you know, Mark Sargent's flat earth clues are really good. I could still listen to them, even though they're 7 years old. Because for anyone, whether you're been around a long while in this arena or you're only purely by accident looking into it, they make you, they're very thought-provoking. And Mark Sargent is very good at relaying the kind of the message he wants to relay. I don't think anyone could have done, anywhere could have done that better than him. It's excellent. I literally could still listen to him today, even though I may not agree with every part. I don't know. I haven't listened to him in a while. They just like make you think, you know.
Globe Earth and other cold pickles.
Yeah, that's what you're expecting next, right? Globe Earth and other hot potatoes.
Did he say globe pickles?
Yeah, he's doing a play on flat Earth and other hot potatoes.
Right.
Yeah, they're just.
When is Globe Earth Dictate going to come out with a new one?
No, I was thinking of Globe Earth Pickles and Dilly Gig or whatever.
Dilly Gill.
Dilly Gill.
That's a good one, Ted. Now, listen, Globe Earth Dictate, he's got to re-up it. It's old. Got to get the new now.
Neil, I got to applaud you. You played a good, frustrated baller who's realizing the Earth is not a ball. You did a good job today. A lot of passion.
I didn't even know you were acting.
Right? That's what a lot of people think. I mean, these are things I was saying when I first heard about it. I was telling this to my brother. So you're telling me all the astronauts are liars?
Yes.
Well, when the truth is the opposite of what they're saying, and they're the ones saying there's somewhere that can't exist, then yes, they're all liars.
Well, this was presented to me the other day. A voice saying we don't know how gas behavior is. Up, and away.
Excuse me, we live on Earth. We know how gas behavior is. We know a lot about gas behavior. In fact, they wouldn't sell you propane at a propane place unless they knew how gas behavior.
Yeah, but they say that's here. That's on Earth.
Right.
You don't know the difference. Look, now that was the ass dinner.
You don't know what it's like in Narnia. Yeah? We know what heaven's like. You don't know what heaven's like. We know what heaven's like. It's special. We're there. Look, here's us men in sets. And they're on that light up there. Look, honest.
Mount Everest, the ass dinner. You can't deny that, Sir Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, so it's in the terrarium.
What about Mount Everest? Is that your... I'm defeated. Yeah, Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
Just to say something as well, I'm in a bit of a bad line here, but when we was talking about 0.7 on the ISS, I did pick it. I've watched the clip anyway, but I think Flatzoid played it the other day. DeGrasse Tyson is now sort of backtracking on this clip. You've all seen it probably, saying the ISS isn't actually in space. He's not calling that space anymore. It's just in low Earth orbit, and space doesn't start until the atmosphere spins out so much that the light from the sun can't be diminished.
Yeah, I can find
In
a
space,
citation
yeah.
that says space starts at sea level.
I'd be interested to hear Neil deGrasse Tyson backtrack. Yeah, I haven't seen or heard that yet.
Well, I've watched the clip that I think Flatzoid played it the other day or the other night, but I've actually watched that clip. It's Tyson and his friend just chuckling and acting like children talking about space. But he's actually saying they're not in space. Not everybody's been into space. This is low Earth orbit. It's not space.
Yeah, but even in low
Saying
Earth
now.
orbit, you don't know how gas behavior responds there because we haven't been there ourselves.
Where's gas produced, Neil?
Ground level.
All right. You sound like Neil, but I'll take it. So gas levels produce a ground level. How is gas pressure produced?
Pressure is the force exerted on the walls of the containment.
Gas pressing on the container.
Okay. Right. So you got gas produced on Earth. Then you have measured gas pressure from that gas produced on Earth, which means it's contained. And now you're talking about why at certain elevations there's a gradient of that gas pressure. You're not taking into account the container itself, the heat, the cold, and all of the things that go into a gradient, which is you have to have the gas pressure in the first place. So this is all within the gas laws that QE and Brian have shared. No one even argues that. They have to take oxygen in a container to go underwater to breathe it. They say they take it into a second law of thermodynamics violation called outer space because they need oxygen up there. So they're saying they're going from a container with gas pressure to a place that's a vacuum. So they have to bring their own air, which is in a container, which doesn't exist because they never went up there in the first place.
Well,
So you're telling me there's this grand scheme going on, and all the nations are in on it,
Yeah.
pretending that there's people up and away in outer space, but they're really not. They're on a studio set.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
It's an internationally cooperated scheme because it's so profitable. It's worth it to them.
Well, what they do is they deny the temperature gradient and how gas behaves, and what is required for it to be under pressure. You can't have gas pressure, temperature, or vacuum without a container. Three things you can't have without containment. And those three things are available in our sky. We have gas pressure, we have a gas pressure gradient, we have a temperature gradient, which is temperature, and we have a low grade vacuum up high. All those things exist because we have a container. Can't exist without it. But more than that, their claim of what creates the gas pressure gradient is a force of gravity, something that was thrown out the window by Albert Einstein in 1915, because it is so easily debunked by the fact that an object weighs more in a vacuum, and objects weigh more at higher altitudes. But they try and claim the opposite, but they proved that objects weigh more. Well, objects could not weigh more in a vacuum if gravity was a force, because then that gravity would be pulling all the air down to the ground, which would add extra downward pressure and force, onto an object that's on a scales. So if you take away the air, then that object should weigh less in a vacuum, but it doesn't. It weighs more because the air is not being pulled down by any force or gravity. The air has a certain lifting effect, like all mediums do, of density do, on objects and substances.
Yeah, contain yourself, Neil.
I put the thumbnail for the show in Master B if you wanted to check it out. Else I can do.
Great news on the computer then, wasn't it, Nathan, today? That's brilliant.
I was very pleased. Got through the whole show without an issue. Just very, very pleased.
Our prayers are answered.
It means that I have to do anything, you know. I can just leave it. I can leave it as is set up, and hopefully it can sit in that position for the next 5 years, not doing anything. But if it craps the bed again, it's going to be straight down to the shop. Pull 2 sticks around out, change some fans.
Hey, if you want a fiddle, get a violin. Leave that thing alone.
Well, it's been about as well behaved as it could possibly be. As in, the fans haven't come on. It's not crashed. I mean, I shouldn't really count that as a positive, should I? It's not broken in the middle of a live show that I earn my money from. I mean, you know, credit where credit's due. It's done the bare minimum that it would be expected to do. No, I'm being serious. It's performing very, very well, as it always is before it crops.
Very nice.
Very good.
Happy to have a happy host. Happy.
Me too. But I can put a bit more passion into the show, and I think it does genuinely rub off on people watching. You know, they're more inclined to share the show if there's a genuinely good live show like we just had, where we're pulling apart something specific. Thanks, One Deck, by the way. I didn't actually give you any commendation for that. Brilliant. That's the kind of thing I love reacting to. I'd, you know, start off with the best of intentions, wanting to get all the way through the housekeeping, because then that's purpose is to do what your 7 ways to prove the Earth is round does. You know, it educates the audience in a standardized way. Well, the housekeeping can do that, but it's better to have something to react to that we can all get our teeth into on the fly than going through housekeeping. So housekeeping's great, but I'd rather be reacting to you going, oh, I've stumbled across this old crap from Google.
Well, what makes it special is that housekeeping is the fundamental baseline that we use to answer these claims that we live on a globular sphere that's spinning through space. So there's more than what he just showed. I think during the week we ought to post what people see that the enemy, which I'll call them because they are, will post while making it hard for them to find your channel. So they'll post these things, which we've all seen. I think we ought to bring them up because in their little echo chamber, they're saying flat earthers are dumb because of this, this, and that. Well, let's bring some of that up next week, why they think flat earthers are dumb, and you're going to run into some of these 7 things again. And I think this goes a long way for people wanting to watch and share the show, because now they're educated on how to use the housekeeping questions in order to overcome these setup questions.
Here.
I agree. And remember, there's always new people. They may seem old to us, these arguments, but there's always new people.
Well, I'll put a dare and a bet, let's call it a virtual bet, that if we do that, if we do more of what One Deck did today and how you did your show today, they'll be back. They won't be boycotting our show anymore. They'll be back.
Oh, no, I'm not concerned about the people boycotting. Those are the people that just have an excuse or want to use that as an excuse to not get pummeled.
No, you're missing my point. Them being here and us breaking their arguments and their chops is one thing. When we take what they do in isolation, apart from us being there, like the good angel and the bad angel in the cartoons on the shoulder of the cat or the dog, whispering, do this, or do this, do that. Okay, so when people go to the internet, they see the powers to be overwhelmingly heavy-sided on all of these arguments that are fallacious. We start bringing those things on our show like today, that will do more damage than any one of these trolls coming here trying to waste our time. Which means they will come here to waste our time, so we don't do that anymore. That's my point.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
I volunteer to do Mondays. I'll go search something and I'll present on Monday, and each day every one of us will do something. No, it's all over the internet. I see it when I go search. I said, what nonsense. So, man, if they had a clue what our housekeeping questions were, all these arguments will die. I'll have something ready for Monday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. That I'll take a turn, like.
Why don't we do the housekeeping questions now? Because then we'll have more context to the show.
Nah, because if we do them in the after show when we're all nice and relaxed and nobody's expecting to, have to rattle off a few yeses to the questions I ask, it doesn't stay as fresh in the live show. So I like that we haven't covered them, because it means that, every show, it's almost like, oh, we're fighting against time to get these in. It's a struggle to get them in. We've got so much to react to. That's how it should be. And then when we finally do one, maybe on Monday, it'll probably be Wednesday. That's when the lull comes. It's the same for us as it is for people in office work, right? They get to about Wednesday and it's like, you're far enough away from the weekend to not be talking about what you've just done. And you're far enough from the next weekend to not be talking about what's going to come to pass. So it's all just downside and everyone's a bit miserable. Well, that's how we are on a Wednesday. The enthusiasm level goes a bit down, and that means we can talk about housekeeping. We actually get through it.
I gotta admit, I'm in a mood for a good old-fashioned Nathan whooping on somebody. Haven't heard that in a while.
Well, I'd be more inclined to hear somebody else. I'd like to hear, rather than what we've had to date, which is flat earthers resenting us for coming up with good arguments and then either not bothering to learn them and then slagging them off because they don't understand them, or resenting them because they're just good arguments. I don't know. But it would be nice to just see people using the arguments and winning with them. That would be better. Yeah, people have seen us win with these arguments, and with the people who tour the circuit, your Rumpuses and your Brendas, people have seen that already if they're old school, and if you're new and you haven't seen Brenda getting her ass kicked, go somewhere else where she hangs around because they tolerate it still.
Not the same. Not the same when somebody else does it. Sorry, Nathan, you hold the title.
Whatever.
All right, so Nathan, I posted Monday's topic already. It's from Scientific American. It's labeled Flat Earthers, What They Believe and Why, dated March 27, 2020. So we'll all be ready to go over it because we'll have a chance to read it.
That sounds juicy.
No, I think each week, every day, we ought to post something from the internet that people see as a rebuttal to our arguments, trying to demean us, make us look stupid, and we just reverse it, break all the fallacious reasoning. That will do more damage on what they're trying to do by silencing us and keeping people from finding us, to where I believe we will be bombarded by the trolls. And then Neil can have his action back.
I think that's true, because them 7 questions today is what you actually get when you look. All right, yeah, but then you've got the anti-flat earthers who we're fighting with constantly, making things up and constantly lying. But for the normal Joe, that's what he's going to look at, and we're going to destroy that very easily.
The funny thing is, when I first was presented, that's what I stumbled across. Those things you read back, 6, 7 years ago now? So don't they have anything new or solid? I mean, I was laughing at them then, and I wasn't even a flat earther.
Let's just hit them where it hurts. Let's hit them in the gut every day with responses to what they put out for people who they want to keep from hearing the truth. And that will hit them in the gut so hard.
And Neil,
Yeah,
regurgitation has always been the standard method for the ball religion. right? Even decades ago, because that's how they put it in there.
Yep.
Right? Yep. You got to get it right. Oh, you don't have to inquire or understand. You just got to have it right. Yeah. And so it's only logical that they just keep regurgitating when they cannot actually debate against the flat earth. So yeah, it's only logical.
And like you say, if we can get the show out to some new people who are just getting into this, and then because that's the level they'll be on, and we break it down nice and concise for them, like Nathan did today, and just prove that this isn't actual evidence at all, and then the truth will just spread.
Hold on a second. I won today. Nathan didn't win. I was the victor.
Very good. Like, nice staying in character.
You were scary, Neil.
Whatever.
I'm gonna have to watch back that show.
I'll debate anybody. I'll debate anybody, Nathan. I'll debate you. I'll debate Kiwi. I'll debate anybody.
That's good.
How about the Kumu virus?
Good one. He debates himself. That's the one. The good thing about virus was he'll contradict himself. He'll say both points and say, "See, I was right."
He's a master debater.
Why don't you walk me through that?
Why'd you walk me through that?
He said you need a straight line. Okay, didn't you just say the opposite?
The best part of that was his voice went so high. It was like it had to be getting to him because out of nowhere, why'd you walk me through that?
Yeah, it's the pitch squeeze, isn't it? When he gets a bit squeezed, then suddenly his voice goes up.
Yeah, everybody does it. It's really hard to control.
Yeah, but especially Akumu does it.
Well, I thought Nathan doing it was so funny.
Yeah, but when he claims to be an expert on geometry and math is his favorite subject, we ask him to define an angle, and he just falls apart. I mean, that was phenomenal.
He told me the other day that he actually was seriously contemplating becoming a math teacher.
Good for him.
Well, if he can't define angles, then he's probably going to get fired the first day.
He really thinks he's a mathematician.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, he actually wants to do that.
When did you say math or meth? When?
So wait,
did you say
math
got or meth?
And now Umu?
We can't hear one deck, or we can't hear Neil because they're both talking at the same time.
I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand one thing one of them said there.
I said, Arwin, did you say math teacher or meth teacher?
No, the thing about math is there's not really a lot to teach about.
And I said, I forgot what I said.
Was that what you were saying?
What the hell did I say?
Was that what you were saying? I forgot what I was saying.
I said, so what choice do the kids have? They got Charles Math Guy and now Akumu, those poor kids.
Oh, don't forget Phil B.
Oh, Phil B's got Phil B brags about having over 270 students he teaches.
Wow. Hey, remember when what's his name used to come in here? Who was that nitwit who was supposedly a teacher? He was also a Mormon, and he said he listens to this show with his students. What was that guy's name again?
Accelerating Coffee Cup guy.
Yes. What's his name?
I don't know. You have to remind me.
The guy with the accelerating coffee cup. Chocolate would know. What the heck is his name? He used to come in here and claim that he plays the flat earth debates for his students.
Double espresso.
Is that what's his name? That's a pilot as well. He claims to be a pilot
yeah,
as
he's
well.
a pilot. They do many things, these ballers. They're everything.
Oh, that's I think he is like he does have a private pilot license, a pilot's license.
Sorry, guys.
What's his name?
Just going to say.
Okay, it won't come to me.
Sorry, mate. I was just saying, just to go back a little bit. I remember, like we're discussing today, and I know the points are very weak points because you guys are so advanced, but I think it is going to get through to newer people. And it reminds me of, I think it was Nathan who broke it down about these anti-flat earthers are building this wall to keep these people away from us. That they're a distraction, they're a diversion, and that's what they've been doing. So if we can go maybe this way sometimes with it, I think we'll be swerving the diversion and hitting him where it hurts.
Brian, it's at the tip. It's at the tip of my tongue. That guy's name. It's just almost there. The files are going.
Me too. Something with an M.
From when was this? What year?
R.C. Moisty.
R.C. Moisty. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that starts with the M. Right at the end. Good job, Neil.
I knew it was an M.
Yeah, R.C. Moisty. He would be driving in his car, going to school, calling in on the show, and then obviously the rest we know.
So he's a pilot. So when does he experience flying backwards?
Better yet, when does he correct for degrees of change by pitching his nose down?
He doesn't. I already was against him. Not against. Well, I happened to run into him on Discord. I don't know when it was, a couple of years ago, and I questioned him on these things, and I can't remember what he said, but he ended up in absurdity. You know, that's where they have to end up. They have to end up in absurdity. He wasn't able. I was shouting at him. There was people listening at the time. Several good people listening. I was calling him an absolute fraud and a liar, and he couldn't say that I was wrong because he was making absurd claims about correcting for things that he wasn't correcting for. And I'm pointing out, no one does that. No commercial airliner, no pilot does that. That's a lie. Do you know what I mean? He couldn't. He got, you know, I thought he might have even got to the point of claiming local horizontals. You know, this is rubbish. And I was like, no.
So he was.
I remember.
Was he making the same claim as the pilot guy that he was like correcting for Coriolis deviation?
No, I think it was mostly where I was mostly holding task on the out curve as opposed to out rotation. I don't even know if we got there, but I remember calling him. I remember shouting at him that he was a fraud. Not shouting as in anger, but just making it very, very. I was very direct about it. That he was a fraud. Not that he wasn't a pilot, but that he was talking rubbish and telling lies. And I say pointing out that if that the very thing he does is a debunk of the very thing he's claiming is real to the children he teaches.
Exactly.
So he's telling the children, he's telling the children he teaches that the Earth is a rotating globe. Yet he's a pilot, which proves, and what he does as a pilot proves that it's not a rotating globe.
That's
absolutely,
Brian.
100%.
How can pilots not? How can they not see it for what it is?
It's not about the ability to see it or not. It's just that he was full on dedicated to represent the globe, even though he would had to know that it isn't. Because of being a pilot.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, look, Neil, don't worry about it. I have no doubt there's a lot of pilots who have been asking themselves a lot of questions. And I'm sure it's been asked before 2015, but since 2015, there's a lot of pilots who are absolutely on board with what we're talking about. And they know that what they do prove the opposite. It proves that it's not a rotating globe, what they do, their job. The fact that their profession exists.
Let me ask you a question then. Are they in the same, let's say, group with astronauts? Because all the pilots know?
No, I was trying to get to that. No. In 2017, there was a lady pilot who flies for Royal Dutch Airways, KLM. And she was a commercial pilot for 10 or more years, right? Or maybe more than 10 years. And she said to her co-pilot, who was her co-pilot and who she thought was one of her best friends for 10 years as her co-pilot. She said to him that the earth was flat while they were flying from somewhere to land, and they were going to Schiphol Airport in Holland. So they were flying from, I don't know where, but they're on a long-haul flight. And he disagreed with her, and she pointed out all the things that were impossible. And it's not so much he disagreed, he had a problem with her asserting the earth was flat, as opposed to he could do anything or disprove her. And what happened was, when they landed, there was a psychiatrist waiting for her. And she got her commercial license taken off her. And she ended up working as ground staff. Yeah, ended up working as ground staff in Schiphol. So this is what they do. They'll destroy your career if you come out and say anything. And I'm sure there has been things that pilots have had to sign, to state that they won't talk about this, and they won't, go looking to make a thing out of it. Because I know myself, I tried to get off a captain. There's a captain. One of my best friend, he has one of his good friends is a captain, and I tried to get the pitch data through the captain, and I couldn't get it. He came back and said, "Sorry, that's not possible to get." Why can't we get pitch data? What is it? I understand other things, but pitch data, that's nothing. Pitch data, it's just the pitch of the aircraft. The pitch. Can't
That's
get
funny
it.
that though.
Why is that?
That's funny having a psychiatrist and getting sacked because of mentioning flat Earth when they taught to fly that machine over a flat, non-rotating horizontal plane in the first place.
Well, if you could physically prove the Earth is flat, couldn't you basically sue that psychiatrist for basically, declaring somebody insane for saying that is factually true? Some say, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, well, maybe in time she will be able, because she didn't get sacked, but she got her commercial license taken off her. So she still has a private license, but she can't fly commercially. And last time I heard of her, she was working as ground staff in Schiphol Airport.
Well, that sounds like fire to me.
Ain't that a shame?
Yeah. Well, if you go to Mark Sargent, if you go to his interviews on his page, he does an interview with her back in 2017. He has an interview with her talking about what happened to her. And there's another lady who's a retired female pilot called Mariella, and she used to be hanging around on Discord, and her and this lady became friends. But people who are pilots and working as pilots, they can't speak out. I'm sure a lot of them want to, but they can't. But commercial pilots in particular can't speak out. And that's why people like Wolfie know this. So Wolfie goes around making claims, but he knows, and I've said it to him, and I've said to him several times, he knows that pilots can't speak out because they'll get into trouble. So he goes around making all kinds of claims, supporting absolutely nothing, and having a big channel and making noise and attacking flat earthers. All the while, every day he goes to work, he's proving the Earth is definitely not a rotating globe, and it must be a horizontal plane, stationary plane.
So you're saying it's the same as the politicians or that type, because certain people that have a different view in politics, they can't speak out about it. They'll lose their jobs. Wow.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Well, what has happened is Dave Murphy, Dave Murphy from London. Dave Murphy, I don't know him personally. Nathan knows him, but I know of him since 7 years ago. Dave Murphy has been involved in making a couple of documentaries called Beyond the Curve or something like that. And the third one is on the way out, or it has come out. And there is pilots who are part of the documentary. And I think there's a good portion, I'm just going off of what I kind of gathered tertiarily, that there's a good portion of, I think, the third documentary where it's based around basically flight. It's just like pilots who are, I think some of them are ex-military pilots or whatever, U.S. military, but something like that. But they're just talking about what one of them is saying in the clip I heard of it, saying how this thing about gyroscopes drifting and all this other rubbish is that exactly what Nathan has said time and time again on the show. The things would be no good if they did that. They have to hold a stationary position in space, regardless of what they are, whether they're light gyros or mechanical gyros. They have to hold a stationary position in space. And this guy was saying that, like, they can't be drifting around the place. So, yeah, there's no, as far as I'm concerned, there's no better proof to give somebody than air travel, because everyone can experience it or learn about it easy, more than celestial navigation, which is more difficult and intimidating. Now, not that celestial navigation is a worse or second to a worse proof or second to air travel. It's just air travel happens every day. Every day they're measuring the Earth when they're flying from one place to another horizontally. Every day measuring the Earth, you know, as a horizontal plane.
And they're never flying over a sphere. That is a joke.
Yeah, I remember even with the late George Netchuk, I remember being on Ranties. I've told the story many times, but just for audience members that don't hear it, who didn't hear it, where he was claiming that there was deviations for flights going north to south and south to north. And I brought up we went through the whole average flight time and average speeds of a flight from London Heathrow to Lagos International in Nigeria. And he did his best and did loads of calculations. And at the end of it, there was absolutely zero deviation. And he showed how it would be impossible with the realistic flights that take place between London Heathrow and Lagos International. He showed with his own calculations, and he knew maths, how what his claim was impossible. You know, where there was no room for deviation whatsoever, and the flight paths showed they couldn't be deviating. Because if a flight leaves London Heathrow and the Earth is rotating to the east, then for it to get to Lagos, Nigeria, it has to head out towards the Middle East. It can't go straight towards the Western Africa. It has to go towards, so it has to fly out over Holland, Belgium, or listen, off towards, I don't know, Greece or something. It can't, you know, it can't go towards Nigeria, which is straight south from, basically from London. So,
yeah, I agree. That's something everybody could experience, getting on a plane. But everybody can't get on a boat and do celestial navigation. 100% correct.
well, they can even learn about the basics of the lift effect in flight. The basics of it. You don't need to go into all the different theories about what the Bernoulli effect is. And all that. You don't need to do all that. I know what it is. I can explain exactly what the Bernoulli effect is, how it works. No, I don't have to worry about that. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to do all that. You don't need all that. You just need to know the basics of how you just work on how commercial airliners fly. You know, just work on them because they span the biggest distances. But all flight has to be done the same. Nothing will hold positive lift, enough positive lift when it is below 0 degrees. There is only a cambered wing which will hold a 60-40, positive 60, negative 40 at about 2 degrees below horizontal. Right? But anything after 2 degrees, it becomes 50-50, then it becomes 60-40, 60, negative 40 positive. So all that cambered wing is going to do is it allows you to have maybe a slower descent. But once you go below 0, you're descending. It's officially, once your pitch is below 0, it's a descent officially. And even Wolfie had in a video where he was talking about how he was descending at 2 degrees below horizontal, 2 degrees below 0 on the attitude indicator in one of his older videos. And I presented it to him. It's in one of my videos. You know, Wolfie is he's admitting that anything below 0 is a descent. Yet he's trying to claim that he flies around a spherical Earth, for flying long distances, which would mean you could never fly with your nose above horizontal. It would always have to be a consistent accumulated pitch below horizontal from your starting cruising altitude. There's also atoms. What we talked about yesterday, I'll talk about it again though, because it's good information. Adam's proof, where he went onto the plane with the accelerometer. Accelerometers, they just constantly register what down. There's two types of accelerometers. One of them uses very small nanotechnology parts in a vacuum unit, and it works off of relative density. The other one uses the piezoelectric effect, which also uses density in its workings. But the main, if you read about it, it's mostly with an accelerometer. They use crystals, very sensitive crystals that are very sensitive to a change in pressure. So when you turn your phone, the crystal senses a change in pressure. So they let the motherboard know. But there's more to it than that. But basically, this crystal lets the motherboard know that there's been a change in pressure. The pressure is now in one direction as opposed to the other. But anyway, long story short, that's what they do. Adam went onto the plane, calibrated his accelerometer or whatever else, went up in the sky, and the direction of down didn't change. There was no change in direction, with the exception of very small, maybe pitch changes of the plane, just brief, small things. There was no change in the direction of down. Adam calculated what the direction of the amount of pitch change the amount of change that should have happened within the data, and it didn't happen, proving that basically what Adam was proving, what he was showing is that there were lots and lots and lots of verticals proving one long horizontal. So, and there's other proofs as well. There is cabin. The cabin of an aircraft always has 11 to 12 psi, like where all the passengers are. And the reason it has, and it doesn't have 14.7, the reason it doesn't have 14.7 is because if they put 14.7 in there, that when they go up high, the pressure differential is so much that the 14.7 causes structural damage to the plane. So they can't bring the air pressure down too low because all the passengers will go unconscious. So they keep it at 11 to 12 psi. That's what they do, because they have to. Now, an airplane is not built of heavy materials, but it's sturdy. It has to be sturdy, obviously. You know what I mean? It can't be flimsy. But even at that, even with everything, even that, the fact that it has to be totally enclosed and it can't have any openings for pressure changes and all that, even at that, if they have sea level 14.7 psi in the plane when they're flying at cruising altitude, then there will be structural damage to the plane because the internal pressure will want to get outside. And so that'll tell you how are they up? My point is, how are they claiming to be up 250 miles up in the air? In something that is not any more sturdily built than an airplane. And they're hanging around up there, and they're always awake and alive. You couldn't have 11 to 12 psi in where they're claiming the inside in where they're claiming the ISS is. You couldn't have that because that would be too much for up there. You can only 11 to 12 psi is only suitable for like 5-6 miles up. Any higher than that, they'll have to drop it. That's why if you fighter pilots who fly higher than that, they have to do all kinds of training, and they have to have oxygen with them and all this kind of stuff. They have to do all kinds of stuff just to be able to fly up higher than a commercial airliner. So how is there something 250 miles up that's built basically of the same materials, and they're hanging around up there as if they're in like 12, 14 psi? They couldn't be. They'd have to have like a percentage of psi within it at the pressures they're dealing with. Only a tiny percentage of psi that nothing could probably live in. Just be impossible. Adam, you're presenting now.
No, I was just putting it on screen. There's some of the original data. Boring. But
no, it's not boring.
You can see it's just ticking away. 1.2, 1.4. But we never get below 1. You can see it's just constant. That's just really what you're seeing there is constant level flight and just air turbulence as it goes in its straight line vector.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like because you're going through air, you can't not have some kind of a small little bit of turbulence. There's no way around that.
That's
it's not
all
going to be
doing.
totally smooth. Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. I would share that.
Excellent. Yeah. It's such a simple thing, Adam. It's such a simple thing, such a simple concept, but it proves so much.
It was
You know?
It was Paul on the plane. So before Paul on the plane did his, there weren't many of us about then. I remember we spent a few nights, me, Paul, and John Savage, just chatting about what we could do with these accelerometers and how we could test stuff. And the one I did there was a bit more complicated, required filming, you see. And Paul, the first one was to switch it off and do the reset. And then this was just like a build on from that. So if there was any changes occurring, we could plot them. You know, we went into this with a baller's mind. Yeah. So the plan was to be a baller, you know, be as open as you could, so that everything was set up to plot these vector changes which would accommodate for traversing the ball. So, you know what I mean? And the plan was to write all these vector changes so then you could demonstrate the surface you were going over, and the vector changes being the key. But as you see, there isn't any. There is none. It's straight level flight as defined by the accelerometer and, more importantly, the bloke flying the plane by his gyroscope.
Yeah, there was nothing to correct for.
No.
That little video you have there, that is so powerful, right? It absolutely destroys the whole of heliocentrism. That little silly video, the whole of heliocentrism, over, right there. And the world doesn't know it.
I think there are some in the world that do know it. They just don't do anything with it.
So, Your
For
Eminence,
legal
you have
reasons.
a word from the other side?
I don't talk to dead people.
Maybe he was
Got
asking
it.
me.
No, I've not heard a thing, Neil. I don't expect to.
So I guess you're relieved of duty then.
No, I'm still drawing a salary.
That whole argument reached a conclusion, didn't it? Just reached a conclusion. They couldn't prove their claim.
It does. Yeah, now that you're talking, I haven't really heard any ether rumblings in quite a while. It kind of just slipped into the background all of a sudden.
Yeah, we certainly put ether in its place.
I think Adam has something to present to do with clouds behind the sun or something.
I was just looking at some of my old photos where I'd pulled that thingy from. So this is taken from a car park at Rome Airport. And the sun's setting, and you can see the cloud lot in front of the sun, just at the bottom, and then the cloud behind.
But it does look to be behind.
Yeah, front and behind. An interesting one. Yeah, and they're like a couple of miles away. These are like on the Adriatic coast. They have these communication towers out at sea. So I'm laid on my belly here, seeing if I can see the bottom of stuff a couple of miles away.
You can see the horizon behind it.
Yeah. This is pre-Black Swan, this photo, actually. This is well pre-Black Swan.
Yeah, you weren't focusing on the right thing.
No.
You were focusing on the bottom of the thing instead of the fact
here.
that the horizon was behind it.
Yeah, I'm looking here saying, can I see this? Is there any obstruction here? I'm not even considering the horizon. When would this be? 2018?
I did use the argument of the horizon prior to way back. I first heard of it. I think I first heard that in 2015. So I'd say it's something that originally was talked about well before our time. You know, that kind of way. But I remember like using it. I remember. What?
Sorry, mate. I was just clearing my throat. Sorry about that. So that was on.
I remember using it in 2000. I remember using it specifically and very, very successfully in 2017. I used it before that, but in 2017, the J-Tolan Media came out with the 120-mile view from Point Dume in Malibu to Mount San Jacinto, or San Jacinto. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. In California, and everybody were coming in with all the rubbish, all the ballers coming in with. I mean, at that time, the amount of ballers at the time was phenomenal. Like, we were like 100 to 1. Must have been 100 or more to 1. And each one of them, and no matter who they were, no matter who they were or what their online persona was, each one of them failed miserably. I asked every one of them, where is the horizon? There should be, you know, at a certain distance from the observer. Where's the horizon? Where's the horizon? Where's the horizon? They all left. They all ran. They all ran from me. All they could do was attack me personally and try and change the subject. Couldn't do anything. Where's the horizon? There should be an horizon, you know, at the beach there in Santa Monica or whatever. Where is it? Where's the horizon? You know, if you're saying the mountains have gone behind something, then what have they gone behind? Where's the horizon? They should be there. You know, at the time, like I wasn't paying attention to 7 over 6 or any of these kind of things, but just purely working on that very simple thing. And they had nothing. Absolutely nothing. I suppose how could they have any? You know, I remember laughing to myself how easy it was to defeat all these different people who were supposed experts in everything. Where's the horizon? Nothing. You know, you're good, you're this, you're that, personal attack. You know.
But that's all they have is personal attacks. They even did that back in the early days of flat earthers, right? The character assassinated them.
I think that the thing that Brian's trying to contrast is the fact that every single claim to be globe proof, if you wiki it or Google search it, uses the horizon. Yet when you've actually got a flat earther asking for evidence in that regard, they fold immediately.
Yeah, I know. I'm just focused on how they treat us. That's all.
Sure.
I mean, I brought up the horizon in the past with people prior to that on just people I was commenting to on YouTube. I had no YouTube. I didn't even have a channel when I was talking to a channel where I was making videos. When the Mount San Jacinto photo came out, I think it was even after that, before I started making videos or doing anything. Or it was in 2017, but it was maybe a little bit after that. But I remember asking people the same thing, different people in comments here and there randomly. But that was, you know, from 2015 to 2017. But that was the first time I consistently stuck to that one thing and asked one person after the other, and none of them had anything. You know, why don't you go to a physics class, and why don't you do this? And, you know, it was all just nonsense. You know what I mean? Rubbish. They had nothing. They all folded. Every one of them folded with ease.
Wow. That's what happened to me. I was going to tell you with my brother again. Couldn't answer the question. So he just started just calling on people that are in authority, education system, scientists. But I told him the scientists that you're listening to, if you look up what science is, you'll see that they're pseudoscientists. They're not scientists.
What you got up, Adam?
Just more. These are like, you're talking about horizon stuff. So I was just investigating me again. So this is 2017, September 2017, looking into this. So there's not much about, and there's certainly no. So you've got the high altitude cams, and I'm looking at that, putting lines on and stuff, horizons, trying to see if you've got any expression of curvature. And then I remember us getting challenged by some ballers saying, look, here's Earth curve. Now, these are just sets of videos that ballers were given. This is like a piece of ground that's supposedly to the same scale as Earth curve. So you can stand on the top of it. You see it's in some park.
Don't they call that evidence of Earth curve?
Well, this is what I'm looking at when I'm viewing this. So you can see that even though it's small and pixelated, you can see you've got a hump. Can you see you've got an increase in the center points compared to the sides on all of them? So this is just me back in the day. Now, can you see this one's even more clear? You start to see the actual curvature of the surface of the hill, because this is a physical curve that I'm stood on top of looking over. So I'm starting to see the obstruction. So these are my kind of early figurings out that if you've got an obstruction, you cannot negate it. It has to be there. It has to be expressed. It's physicality.
I see what you mean, Adam. Yeah, but with the high altitude footage wasn't showing this.
What you got now? What's this? Oh, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I'm just having a look at that. There's my old derivation of the formula. This is Bry. Derive. Sure, this is derivation of Earth curvature. Yeah. So that's. So when yesterday I was saying about 0.014. See, it's 0.009 degrees per kilometer. There you go. Where's the Australian one? I haven't got miles on there, but that was me deriving that back then and all. Old school stuff. Yeah, 2017.
I don't see no sphere in those pictures.
Right. What's that one? Oh, yeah. So you know when I showed you that picture, I did these stars rotating with the fiber optics. That's the thing that the stars were embedded in, that big polystyrene ball. So this is me just trying to work out, look, how you can have the rotation of the stars in terms of the change of the seasons and the procession. Because I have to visualize stuff. It was hard to get what's going off in your head. But it all works flat. Do you know what I mean? Like a clock. It's kind of like my Ethereum mechanism, this. Funny.
It all works flat because it's flat.
Funny. You can see how this sits off the circle and as it rotates. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop reminiscing.
Good stuff. It's nice to have a bit of a flashback.
Yeah. What's that? What is that?
Ryan, did you say 2015? How long are you in this argument?
2015, I started, Nathan. Or Neil, sorry.
Wow. I'm a latecomer, huh?
Nathan, I don't know. I think Nathan started in 2015 as well. Nathan can confirm that. But I remember watching Nathan the week he got. Well, he was his first interview on Voice. I think that was in the summer of 2015. I remember watching that week.
Yeah.
Nathan started a bit prior to me.
I'd been doing it for about 6 months at that point. I think I was end of 2014. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you were a bit ahead of me. Yeah, because I remember
Not by much. You've been around
channel.
as long as I have, basically, but I think math was before me by several years. So who cares?
Yeah. There was people before us, you know. There was people before us. But the Betty is around since 2014. Betty is, of all of us, Betty is the oldest, or been around, of all the people in our group. Let's just say Betty is the most senior, if you want to put it that way.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that.
So I guess I owe good old Bob. I should thank him, right? Because if it wasn't for that show and David Weiss mentioning you, I probably would have never found you.
Maybe.
Well, Glowbusters. Sorry, Nathan.
Boom.
So thanks, Bob.
Well, Glowbusters was like layer 2. Because Mark Sargent called himself like flat out. I can't remember how he was like the entry level, and people would find Mark Sargent and his clues, and then they would go and his interview. But technically, his interviews were brilliant because there's a lot of good information in there with people who are subject matter experts and stuff. But then people would find Glowbusters, and then they would find Nathan and QE, because that's how it worked for me. Well, no, I found Nathan first around the same time as I found just that after finding Mark Sargent and Eric DeBay and whatever. And then I found Glowbusters and Nathan around the same time, because I remember who else was also Dave Murphy, and someone else, I can't remember. But then I found QE, but QE wasn't around in 2015. It wasn't until 2016 when he was on with Robert Bassano and that. I remember listening to QE there with Robert Bassano. And once I heard Nathan, QE being on Nathan's one evening, doing an interview or something, and QE going through what science was, and QE stating it back then in 2016 that he won't take any prisoners, whether they're globe or flat. If they're talking rubbish, he's going to be calling them out. And he was saying that back then. So it's not something new with him.
How did QE get to Nathan?
I have no idea. I don't know how Nathan and QE found each other.
I was just walking along one day and this bright light appeared in front of me.
Why did I know that was coming?
Wow, like the Terminator.
Yeah, like the exactly.
I thought that was a reference to Saul of Tarsus, but fair enough.
Very good, Adam. Very good.
Looks like that's my cue to round out this show. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
day!